Gamal? Okay, I can see Dr. Gamal. Maybe Dr. Gamal can switch on your camera. Mr. Johan, are you there? Yes, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, you are safely arrived.
Yes.
In our, because a little bit technical system, the organizer mentioned to me that they just created the breakout for us, the tag. And last but not least, Pak Insinyur Iqbal.
Yes.
Are you there?
Yes, yes.
Oh yeah, okay. Now I can see all of you here. Please wait a while before the organizer to give me the cue to start our session.
In the chat room, they will say you can start now.
All right. Okay.
Assalamualaikum, you may start your session.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum and very good afternoon to all of you. I would like to express my utmost gratitude to the organizer, NOOR Malaysia and ABIM, for organizing this such marvelous and awesome event on good governance quest for the future. And our session for this afternoon will capture, or we will discuss on the component 3 on technology with the topic of science and innovation, the pursuit of societal excellence. A little bit introduction on our session for today. The digital economy has been a point of discussion since the start of the dot-com boom. The essence of science and innovation has been the key initiator for the digitalization of the market from the state, a typical free market view of things. Now, in the digital age, it has somehow taken to a new form of its own, fueling the growth of multiple industries and businesses into giants we call unicorns. These businesses operate on the tenets of trust, building from the ground up with their targeted audience. As mankind continues to innovate, many spectacular findings have been unearthed. Each and every finding has evolved the essence of how a society functions. The tenets of societal development grow closely with innovation, from the first wheel to the now beaming artificial intelligence industry. Every day we are seeing daily innovations springing up from many parts of the world. Many economists are astounded by the rate of our innovation and how rapid science has evolved. Hence, what is the role of science and innovation in building a society, and how does it affect on how society functions? And what are the core tenets of innovation that one must understand to further impact society in positive way? And today, we have our distinguished panel speakers. I would like to give some introduction first about myself. I am Effendy, the moderator for this afternoon. I am the CEO of Blockworq Berhad, a company that focusing on IR 4.0 and blockchain as a core solution, blockchain as a solution. And also I am the council member of Qitmeer Foundation that based in Dubai and Shenzhen, focusing on blockchain development and blockchain solution as well. And I would like to introduce our distinguished speakers. We have 4 powerful, marvelous, and all are international level from various background. I will start to introduce first Dr. Mazlan Abbas. Dr. Mazlan Abbas is a co-founder and CEO of FAVORIOT IoT, Sedia Berhad. He's ranked among top 50 global thought leaders on the Internet of Things, February 2019, and Digital Disruption by Thinkers 316, top 50 most impactful smart cities leaders by World CSR Congress 2017, ranked top 10 in IoT, top 100 influencers by Postscripts 217 and 218, ranked number 20 thought leader in IoT by 2014, and of course, he is the United Lunar Industry Personality 2016, and before FAVORIOT IoT, he spent 2.5 years as CEO of Redstone IoT and 8 years in Mimos Berhad as Senior Director Wireless Communication Cluster. He also spent 13 years in Celcom, handling many senior management positions. Prior to Celcom, he spent 10 years as Associate Professor at University of Technology Malaysia. He was an adjunct professor for UTM, for UTP, various universities, and of course, Dr. Mazlan is a frequent speaker at many major and established IoT, iPhone 0, Smart Cities, and Telco conference. We can say that, and he got his PhD in telecommunication from UTM, and also received honorary doctorate in electrical engineering from UTHM, and he also a TEDx speaker. So we can say that Dr. Mazlan Abbas is a kind of hybrid person, industry plus academician. Okay, and second, we have our distinguished speaker, another international global thought leader, Dr. Gamal Albinsaid. Dr. Gamal Albinsaid is a doctor, health innovator, researcher, social entrepreneur, who is also widely known as an inspiration of Indonesian pride, born in September 8, 1980 in Malang. He was graduated from Brawijaya University and has gained many achievements since at young age. Throughout his studies, Dr. Gamal Albinsaid has won 12 scientific awards from various leading universities in Indonesia. And he also was inspired actually it's a main motivation for this story of a scavenger girl named Khairunisa, who died in his father's trash caused by diarrhea and unable to seek for healthcare access, and has become the main motivation for Dr. Gamal Albinsaid to develop a range of health innovations to achieve his vision, open doors to health access for everyone, including for the underprivileged. Various innovations has been developed include garbage clinical insurance, in bahasa Indonesia called as a klinik asuransi sampah. They will tell us more about that after this. InMed, siapapeduli.id, and various other health innovation. And the best thing about his social enterprise movement, Dr. Gamal Albinsaid also actually awarded, and I think he's the first youth in the world and the only one in Asia to be awarded by His Excellency, the Prince of Wales Young Sustainability Entrepreneur Award from the United Kingdom, handed over directly by Prince Charles. The Castle of Buckingham invited him and gave him award on his movement on the social enterprise. And now, Dr. Gamal also has earned more than 50 awards, and 11 of them are international awards from UK, Japan, Germany, South Korea, India, Thailand, Cambodia. Wow, this is marvelous. And another global thought leader in senior, IR Muhaimin Iqbal. I can say that IR Muhaimin Iqbal, he has a background of engineering. He's a philanthropy conglomerate. He's a CEO of Green Wakaf, International Wakaf Fund Foundation. He also the chairman of the New Energy Asia company, chairman on Institute of Bioeconomy Science. He focusing on the bioeconomy research R&D, and he involved with many corporate companies as well, and developing the startup as well. And his education background from IPB, Institute Pertanian Bogor, on the agriculture engineer. He's a Chartered Insurance Institute from London. And also he's also got some certification from Australia and New Zealand Institute of Insurance and Finance. And last but not least, wow, all the speakers have a very established, actually I just mentioned half of their profile. If I mention their profile is not anymore, we cannot continue with our session. We just speaking all about their profile only. And last but not least, Mr. Mohamad Johan. He is a certified trainer for green productivity by APO, Asian Productivity Organization from Japan. Born and raised in Singapore, primary education until 12 years old. He immigrated with his family to Malacca and traveled part of the world in relation to waste management and clean world initiatives since 2010. From 2015, he forms HEM Malaysia Group and established MHIRA, MHIRA, Malaysia Hemtech Industrial Research Association, focusing on research and future HEM technology and development for Malaysia. His area of interest and area of expertise is on advanced material industry related to hemp industry, biomass, waste management, food security, zero waste hemp technology, which under MHIRA, he has introduced linking hemp and UN SDGs 2030 during the ASEAN Hemp Summit 2020 in Kathmandu, Nepal. And previously, he was also the former president and co-founder of Pertubuhan RCOMM Lestari World Cleanup Day and Sejahtera Malaysia, founding convener towards Zero Waste Campaign, mentor Southeast Asia LDIW Foundation, and first initiated EcoBricks in Malaysia, and a lot of joint collaboration with researchers for plastic pollution in the ocean, and of course, advisory for a lot of sustainable campus initiatives, especially with International Islamic Universities Malaysia, IIUM. And wow, marvelous profile of our panel speaker for today. And I'm so honored to be part of this session and would like to start. For all of you, our session we have 3 rounds. We will start the first round on the introduction, on the question on the introduction that related to the industries by the panel speaker. And the second round will go deeper into the challenges, into a lot of various solution, explanation, innovation, discussion. And the third, we will have some summary from all the speakers. And after 3 rounds on our discussion, I would like to open for the Q&A. Please save and please raise a good questions to our speakers, because it's quite difficult to combine. To bring them together in this wonderful session. And my first question, I would like to raise the first question to the thought leader in IoT, iPhone in Malaysia. We can say that he's a father of a big data in Malaysia, because he mentioned, he preached about IoT, about that time, telematic data. We can say that he's a pioneer in Malaysia. So, I would like to give one question to Dr. Mazlan Abbas. Doctor, how actually we address the digital divide in the digital world, and how to embrace this digital literacy to the countries, to developed countries, especially in Malaysia and ASEAN?
Okay, first of all, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and thank you very much, Mr. Effendy. It's an honor for me to be together with the distinguished panels over here. It's interesting thing about this NOOR conference is about talking about governance and also helping how the technology will help the society. So regarding these questions about how can we address this kind of digital divide in our developing world, I see this in different countries. They have a different DNA. So any human beings have different DNA. So even the nation themselves have different DNA. In this case of this DNA, what I meant was D is about the device, N is about the application network, and A is about the applications. So the readiness of this DNA within different nations is different from each other. I'll take an example of a very basic thing, the N part, which is the network. The most important infrastructure part to bridge this particular digital divide. For us, I would believe that internet itself should be a utility. Everyone should have access to the internet. I think we have seen the last 2 years when we had pandemic, internet is so critical for our business. So most likely, if a country which don't have internet access and very low capability of internet, it's very difficult for them to move forward. Yeah? A lot of countries, whenever they have broadband access, their GDP will be always increased. But the challenges is especially in the rural areas. This is where we are seeing that divide becoming bigger and bigger. Infrastructures that we have to put in, like microwave and fibers, these are very expensive infrastructure. Satellite is also very expensive, and maybe the speed is not as good as the terrestrial. And we have seen technology has moved. Google from Alphabet, they have attempt to set up what they call the Loon project. Project Loon is an internet balloon where they put the balloon which have connectivity at the stratosphere altitude of between 18 to 25 kilometers away. So they have tested it out, but unfortunately after 9 years, this project has been closed down, winding down, because it is very expensive. But the idea is good, to bring connectivity to all the unserved and the underserved communities around the world. But because of the cost that we want to provide this to the end users, and they still haven't found out a good way to build a long-term sustainable business. So it's unfortunately this project has been closed down. But somehow we are seeing that new technologies are coming out. Now they are looking at low Earth orbit technology. We are seeing SpaceX, Starlink. Elon Musk is very good in disrupting a lot of business. So they have put this low orbit. They have launched these satellites, about 1,800 already up there by June 2021. The speed is about 50 megabit up to 150 megabit. So the latency also, so it's good for real-time applications. And they aim to deploy a very staggering about 42,000 satellites. This is a very huge number. So meaning to say that we have a good coverage everywhere around the world, serving the billion kind of people. And the cost now is becoming cheaper. I think they have launched it out in even Malaysia, I'm not sure, but they're still waiting for regulatory to approve that. The moment they approve, you will see coverage of internet will be everywhere around the world. So that is one of the things that we are seeing now. But other competitors than Starlink, we have seen Amazon's, the Project Kuiper, Boeing, Viasat, Telesat, and many others, even Chinese countries also, they are building these satellites. So many of them are waiting for this kind of approval. The moment you have the right infrastructure, that's when the applications can come in. You can have good education with the right application, the content that you are now giving to the rural people. So you are closing that gap. But of course, one of the important things we need to also provide is the affordable devices. A lot of times we put infrastructure in, but the cost of the devices is too expensive even for the rural people. So we must find a way for them. Even we are seeing the pandemic that happened now. We used to think about one computer per home, one PC per home. But that concept is no longer anymore. The moment we are stuck down, not going anywhere, there might be 3 or 4 or even 5 PCs inside the home. So you must find a way to have affordable device. So by having the right DNA, then such countries can close the digital divide. Because we are now seeing another divide is coming in, the IR 4.0, which have new technologies. If you are not taking care of this, that kind of divide between the IR 4.0 community and the IR 3.0 or the 2.0 people will becoming bigger and bigger. So technology now, we want to ensure that we are closing the gap by the people by giving them the right education and also business opportunity for them to live. Pass back to you, Effendy.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Mazlan Abbas, for your powerful introductions on, the digital literacy, the comparison that you raised by having the Elon Musk, for example, right? It's very good to have that kind of, information, the wisdom from you. Thank you so much, Dr. Mazlan Abbas. Now, I would like to ask, to raise questions to IR Pak Iqbal. Pak Iqbal,
Yes.
because Pak Iqbal,
Yes.
your experience I think in our session we will touch from every sector by focusing on the expertise of our speakers. So Pak Iqbal, you are in the renewable sector, right?
Yeah.
So please share as introduction, I mean the potential, then all the movement that you have made in ASEAN and in Indonesia. So what is the potential on the renewable energy? Because we can say that in countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, ASEAN, we still in the traditional way on putting on utilizing the power supply, for example, right? We still have that kind of not so much on 4.0 or so. Please explain the potential, the challenges on the renewable sector that you are involved.
Okay, thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. You hear my voice, is it? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Very clear.
Okay, thank you. You know that we are now the first year of the decades of Sustainable Development Goals. SDG decade is now. So we are starting this. What is trying to achieve in this SDG is basically to reduce emission for everybody, including every country. They have national determined contribution, commitment to reduce certain emission. While this is not achieved yet, but next 2 months from now, in November, there will be high-level convention about UN Convention on Framework Convention on climate, basically Convention on Climate Change. What is the proposal of this Convention on Climate Change? One agenda that will be brought by many parties during the next convention is basically what they call it net zero. Net zero basically that's the only way for us to reduce the emission to keep the temperature, global temperature, and 1.5 degrees above the pre-industrial area. So this is what the world trying to do. Why it is very important for us in these ASEAN countries, particularly us who have around the equator, because we have all resources to do this net zero things. You know, the people in Western country or in the northern part of the globe or in the southern part of the world, they do not have sun every time. So they do not have a lot of biodiversity like what we have. We in this equator is the one that can grow almost everything year round. During the next decade, it's very important for us basically to grow things, to grow the proper things in arid land. In the what we call it Indonesia, for example, we have 14 million hectares of what we call it critical and supercritical land, basically that inhabited or unplanted land. But if we can grow something on that, and this thing can grow energy, then they have two impact. First, it's provide renewable energy, carbon neutral energy, and then second, they can absorb carbon dioxide during the plantation. So will be very easy if we want to do that, and if we can do that, basically to grow things. What our philosophy in the what we call it our startup, we call it New Energy Asia. Basically, our philosophy is basically we are planting trees to save life, but while we are doing that, we produce carbon neutral energy. We promote, for example, certain tree that we call it Tamanu. You may hear the plant Tamanu. Tamanu is based on our research. Is the best tree, can survive almost in every difficult land. Can be grow in sandy land, ex-fire forest. They can grow in the beach. They can grow almost everywhere. And even we are now invited by the government of Saudi Arabia trying to test this in Saudi Arabia, because the Saudi, they have a program what they call it Saudi Green Initiative, and we send a proposal that to grow this thing in Saudi. So if we can grow this, we will have we are throw one stone for two birds. Basically, they reduce the emission as well as provide the renewable energy. Then the countries like us in archipelago country like Indonesia, we have 17,500 of islands. What is the problem with this? The problem is whatever the price of oil and oil in the international market, energy to some of our remote island is still very, very expensive because the cost of distribution is very expensive. So with these trees that we are planting, basically, we will introduce very soon, in fact, we are now start planting it, we will soon have what we call it local fuel. Basically, the fuel, a kind of fuel that we can grow and use in the same location. With that, we have more advantage, reduce the footprint, and then create a job, and then create energy, and energy economy become belong to the common people like us, because during the fossil-based energy business is big and very expensive business. It only can be played by giant conglomerate and so on. But during this bio and economy era, we can introduce energy that even people, a small company in the in the village, they can produce. One of our machine, for example, we call it micro refinery and power plant, can produce energy for fuel for 300 liters per day, for example. That's enough for small village in the very remote area. So they do not need to wait the renewable or the fossil-based fuel that need to come from the from the big island and so on. So with this, we want to make a change, basically make a better life, because it's a greener world for us, but also better economy, because you can play wherever you are or whatever you are doing in the remote area, some project in the remote area, you can produce your own biofuel. When we mention biofuel, actually it's not biodiesel. What we produce is what we call it drop-in biofuel. It means exactly the same like hydrocarbon fuel, like diesel, like gasoline, like LPG, for example. But it's from renewable material. Renewable material could be tamanu oil, or could be biomass, and even could be waste food or whatever that's from the biomass. And we produce this, but that's why we call it New Energy Asia, because we want to introduce affordable, clean energy for everybody, particularly in people in the very remote island in Indonesia, that we have thousands and thousands of it that need the energy. So that's what basically what we are doing, and we can elaborate later when point interest of you to.
Wow, wonderful. When you mentioned about local fuel, I'm very touched when you mentioned about Indonesia has 7,000 islands, and of course Indonesia one of the contributor on the petroleum in the world, right? One of the largest in the world. But still, Indonesia have the problems on the petroleum issues, because still expensive. That cannot cover to all islands as well. And when you mentioned about local fuel, how we need to create the new industries, the solution that you made by having this local fuel, that you can create new energy, new jobs, and also something on the biomass, for the waste management, with New Energy Asia, clean energy, is a wonderful effort from you, Pak Iqbal. And of course, this will lead to societal happiness, right? When we settle the issues of energy, issues of jobs, economic issues, and health as well, right? Because new energy, I believe that will go for the clean environment as well. Well done, Pak Iqbal. Our third speaker, first in Malaysia, then we fly to Indonesia, then we come back to Malaysia. I would like to raise my question to Mr. Johan, Mr. Mohamad Johan. Mr. Mohamad Johan?
Yes.
Alhamdulillah. Yeah, we want to see your face. Okay, yeah. Alhamdulillah, you are there. All right, Mr. Mohamad Johan. Because our first round, we focus on your industries. Please introduce more about your campaigns on, we call as waste management, your campaigns on, we call as zero waste campaign. Please introduce more, and of course a little bit on the hemp technology. I think it's very new in Malaysia, maybe in ASEAN region as well, and of course related to your campaign, this new industry. Of course, we need to do a lot of R&D. So in Southeast Asia, basically in Southeast Asia and Malaysia, on R&D. So where are we now, and where actually should we go? Maybe in terms of the costing, the government support, or the mentality, the fund. Please explain on that. That related to your industry as well. The floor is yours.
Great. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And I think from the basic, since you mentioned about waste, I involved in Malaysia back in 2010 when we initiate a cleanup in Hulu Selangor, starting from Kuala Kubu Baru, where we just pick up all waste which are laid out by the roadside. So we gather some of the local NGO, and we then about 4 hours, then we start collecting. Even the lorry that we chartered, we can't cope. You know, we did 3 rounds in order to cope with all the waste that people are just throwing by the roadside. So that was the first initiative that we did before I was appointed as the World Cleanup Day mentor for Southeast Asia, where we introduced the World Cleanup Day campaign in Malaysia back in 2015. So the whole waste that we have collected, in fact, we have more than 100 locations doing a cleanup involving all countries in nationwide. I'm talking about. Even I had the opportunity to travel to Bali and of course to the Philippines and all this region to represent the Let's Do It World campaign on World Cleanup Day. So what happened after 2015, we developed some eco schools to solve single-use plastic into an eco bricks project. So there is one school, for example, in SMK Darul Ihsan Selangor. They have set up a workshop into PET bottles. We call it eco bricks project. So they even have a workshop center. So the whole Towards Zero Waste initiative under the Arkom Lestari that we set up back in 2010, when I managed to travel to Estonia for a Clean World conference, that's where I came across hemp industry, where people are eating hemp food. They are actually involving in the production of hemp. And after understanding deeper, it seems that that's not actually falls in the drug category. So therefore, I came back to Malaysia in 2015. We just gathered some advocates, and we focus on industrial hemp. So I like to share with the audience, when we're talking about industrial hemp, we are not referring to the medical cannabis industry. That's totally a different industry. So industrial hemp is focusing on the advanced material. As I heard what IR Iqbal mentioned, that if we're talking about hemp, it's a plant that actually can support the upstream and downstream. Hemp can produce ethanol for gas, for example, or even from downstream. Nowadays, you know, the lack of nutritional food. See, like currently we're experiencing a new phase in our lifestyle since the COVID-19 pandemic has disrupted. Labor market globally during 2020 have dropped. People lost their job, and other rapidly adjusted working from home. You see, as offices closed. And in fact, when we saw the recent white flag movement in Malaysia especially, the movement identified people in the need of food. And it has revealed the unexpected. So there are no statistics indicate that the number of those in need, but social media reflects it, such as it's a desperation is currently happening in this country. So therefore, the COVID-19 mitigation strategies, particularly the lockdowns, have actually serious unintended consequences beyond our statistical estimation. So this actually lead to my sharing on the industry, and what the current situation need now is leading to a preparation for its food security. So hemp produces best protein. You know, we have issues now with our animal feed is rising high. The corn and especially the soy is raising very high, and the chicken is getting higher. But there's not an accurate data where we refer back to the animal feed, whether it's really organic and all those GMOs issue on that side. So because of its problematic effect on health, so our household food insecurity places a big burden on healthcare system. Adult in food insecure household have greater rates of developing chronic disease. Mental health issues facing right now, arthritis, asthmatic, diabetes, cancer, and these are more likely that people will die early. You see, so I relate both the ways into the future industrial hemp I'm referring to is the country should lay the foundation for a resilient and health food system that is socially, ecologically, and economically sustainable. That's my feedback, Effendy. Thank you. You mute your mic.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Johan, for very nice explanation on your campaign on promoting the R&D, your involvement, advising the industry, advising the people, and of course, when you touch about food security, I can say that you are involved as a food security man. We have first speaker as an IoT man. We can say also Iron Man as well. We have new energy man. We have now food security man. Now, I would like to raise my question to our medical man, social entrepreneur of the year. I mean, the icon of social enterprise that got a lot of awards from Western countries. My question to Dr. Gamal, you may unmute. Dr. Gamal, you are the icon. In fact, your name in the Wikipedia, right? Wikipedia and all the news with the powerful record when you got awards from Buckingham, from Prince Charles, and then you also met Russian president in Russia in one forum, and then you spoke to him personally. Actually, Dr. Gamal, this is a very inspirational for the young people, young generation like us. I would like to know more about your campaign, for example, your solution on the garbage clinical insurance, clinic asli sampah, that you receive sampah, you receive the garbage, and you turn to something as a token for the people, the underprivileged people, right? And then about your inmate, please share more about your startups, your social enterprise, and the impact to the society, and how to be like you. I mean, actually, what actually attract the most this Western world about your movement? Please share. And the floor is yours. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Effendy, for the time given to me to share about my idea, insight, about my experience also in the same time. And first of all, I want to say thank you for everyone who's come to this session, and especially also Pak Muhaimin Iqbal, one of my mentor and inspirator in Indonesia. I'm very proud of you, and you inspire me a lot of with your innovation and support to a lot of people in Indonesia. Okay, so I will bring my main point of discussion today in two aspects. First of all, about my experience and in developing healthcare and also innovation to fight against inequality. And secondly, I will bring in the good governance aspect as one of the subjects to discuss today. So actually, I believe that everything starts with empathize. So empathy is the connection that leads to innovation. Yeah, in Indonesia and ASEAN and the world, I believe there is a lot of problem. Let's start with the word problem. In 2017, I with some of world social entrepreneur in Thailand, we launched World Equality Forum in the same time with World Economic Forum. Because at that time, could you imagine if we combine some total the wealth of 80 most world people in the world, it is same as with half of the world population. Yeah, and it's a growth. Last report from Oxfam show that if we total the amount of money from 8 people it's same as with half of the population of the planet. So could you imagine? Yeah? So few have so much, so many have so little. So I think this is also only one part of the problem. We have healthcare problem, yes, about also access of water, sanitation, and also about the infectious disease. Yeah. And also we have a big problem about stunting, yeah, and a lot of healthcare problem in Indonesia and also ASEAN and across the world. Yeah. And so I believe that we face a lot of problem, but yeah, at the same time, we cannot only judge about this problem. We should do something. Yeah. And I believe that empathy will bring us to develop innovation, have an idea to start a solution. So in my focus right now, actually we focus on health innovation. We have 3 innovation to fight against health inequality. First, garbage clinical insurance. It is micro health insurance program, which is garbage is financing resources. So let me tell you a true story of a 3-year-old girl, Hairunisa. She was the doctor of garbage scavenger named Supriyono who only get income $1 a day. One day, she got diarrhea disease, but she could not get health access because of unaffordable health costs. Every day she followed her father looking for garbage, and finally, 5 June 2005, she died in garbage collection. As a medical doctor, I said this should not happen and I must do something. This motivated us to develop garbage clinical insurance, micro health insurance program, which use garbage as financing resources. So what we have done is make the community mobilize their own unused resources to become fun and give it back to them as health access. So practically, we offer residents to submit their garbage as worth $1 to us every month. In return, we cover primary healthcare services. And we believe, yeah, this innovation have objective. We want to give freedom from fear, worry, and pain because we believe that health is fundamental human right. Yeah. And our second innovation is waptv.my. So when I'm internship in a hospital, in Indonesia, if we finish our bachelor degree as medical doctor student, yeah, we must working in government hospital 1 year. One day I working in emergency room and I'm in charge in the night and I get one patient awal unikma. He got a traffic accident and have fractured at the time and need high cost of services. And then I just upload in my social media. And tomorrow in 1 day, I get a lot of money from public to support my patient. And then at that day, at that time, I start to my second innovation. We call it siapaberdua.id. In English, it's mean who care, yeah, but it's a question. Yeah. So we should care. And I love this innovation because it's very simple innovation. With small team compared to other, but they can give a big impact to society in my country. So we have impact. Yeah, we serve thousands of people in Indonesia and also across HD city, more than about HD city in Indonesia. And our third innovation is in math. Actually, this is our last, but it's very complex, and we still develop this innovation. And the first version is for Medika. And the idea is very simple. We want to bring medical doctor and health worker to the patient of poor people. So it's like the home care service, but social friendly. So, and then we develop the second version. We call it in math. And then we now still grow this innovation to enlarge the impact, make sure everything is can achieve sustainability of our innovation. And last but not least, I developed Indonesia COVID care. Yeah. In the term in this situation, yeah, we have I believe Malaysia, Indonesia, we have same problem with COVID-19, and we also start Malang COVID care, yeah, because actually it's new innovation. When the COVID become pandemic, we try to do writing book, give education, and distribute a lot of face masks to community. But after 1 year, we fight against second wave of the pandemic, and at that time it's become big experience for me because I must help my relatives, friends, family that have infected with COVID-19. We looking for medical drugs, and also we looking for a lot of devices needed, and also looking for like ventilator, ICU, and hospital because we have a problem at the time because a lot of patients get infected with COVID-19. So in my experience, yeah, and also when I meet a lot of innovation in the world, yeah, for example, Zeppelin. This is the second most disruptive innovation in the world. So my friend Keller, they developed in Rwanda. It's like drone that can deliver medical products in the rural area or in the specific area that's hard to achieve with maybe another vehicle and another transportation. I learned from a lot of them, and I believe that they start innovation because of they have story that bring the innovation is come up. Yeah. So if we discuss about the value that is important for us right now is empathize to community. So empathy is one of the important thing. And proudly I want to share one of the research that give good. And I think this is the strength of one Indonesia. Indonesia fight a lot of problems in the world. I looking for a lot of information, data about Indonesia, and I almost never met the data that bring Indonesia number one in the world. But we are give awarded, and also we give the first position in the world as the most charitable country in the world, the most generous country in the world. So this I want to share to all of you. Today we have a lot of problems. In the future we will have a lot of problems. We will fight against a lot of problems. But we can fight this problem. We can support each other because of the value that we have as human. That is like the social awareness. Yeah. And I think it's not enough. This is the start of the innovation. And now the most important thing also our capability to define the problem and also create a solution. So problem that I mentioned before is primary engine of innovation, but problem is not enough because innovation is pivotal moment when talented, ambitious, and motivated people seek the opportunity to act on their idea. So I believe if we talk about good governance, quest of the future, I believe that our capability to define problem, create solution. So like critical thinking and creative thinking is very important. So we will not become haters or lovers. So we become director of change. So we are not just idea, but we also generate solution. Because problem solving is part between critical thinking and creative thinking. Last but not least, you have idea. We have idea, but everyone has an idea. So it's really about executing idea and attracting other people to help you work on your idea. So stay focused. Don't talk what you are gonna do. Don't criticize somebody else what they are not doing. Go for it now. And I believe that good governance must implement human-centered design or design thinking to redefine problem, to challenge assumption, and to create new innovation. And my message to a lot of young people in Indonesia, Malaysia, and ASEAN, and across a lot of people in the world is work hard in silence and let your impact be your noise. Thank you, Effendy.
Okay, thank you to Dr. Gamal. I can say that the solution that you made, especially on the clinic asuransi sampah, the garbage clinic insurance, you solve actually these problems. First, health problem, because you give medicine. Second, you solve also economic problem. You take the garbage and you give the medicine to the poor people, and of course the poor people will settle the issues. I mean, the people will settle issue of the cleanliness, right? So settle three issues: clean environment, economy, and health as well. And your advice is on idea is very important, but the more important is how you need to execute the idea and keep focus. Thank you, Dr. Gamal. And I come back to Dr. Mazlan Abbas. Now we are in the second round. Dr. Mazlan Abbas, I want to combine two questions in one question, one solution from you. The first, we would like to know, because you are the IoT man, I can say you are like Iron Man for Malaysia, IoT man. Everything is connected, right? How actually IoT can solve the trust and good governance for in the country, in the industry? So how IoT can help? on the trust and good governance, right? In transparency, maybe you can share about the technology. And second, because you involved in a lot of the corporate world before you enter and you create your own startup for I think 3 for 4 years, right? So what is actually the challenges for the tech startup, the challenges and the opportunity in the tech startup in Malaysia and in ASEAN region? The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Effendy. I think we know that IoT have a lot of benefits. IoT can make process more efficient, gain higher productivity, and even create new revenue streams, new products. Things which have not been connected can be connected now. So when we look at about how IoT can help in providing better trust or even governance, we see the issues that IoT can help. I give a scenario whereby we see a lot of leakages happening now. Items which being sent and received are not the same items. The manifest, people might see that somehow it changes when they arrive at the destinations. And a lot of logistic companies don't like that if you have IoT, because it will ensure that the tracing and tracking will happen more efficiently. But somehow people want to have that kind of leakages, abusing their power. And you see company assets have been abused a lot of times. They use companies' vehicle for their own private use and so on and so forth. You see logistics and transportation, when you carry very expensive items or even carry palm oil, petrol, diesel, things can get lost along the way. And also we are seeing that process now, what happened, if the process is too dependent on the humans, either mistakes will happen, or even if you have a lack of integrity by the people who we assign them to be responsible, then we have a lot of issues of leakages that's going to happen. So IoT can play a very big role here in terms of tracking, tracing, even detecting any abnormalities that happen. I would call that things that you put attached to the sensors to these particular assets, which is very important, the spies, smaller spies that can report to the management that, hey, I'm here, I'm not supposed to be here. I should be supposed to be there. I'm supposed to be handed over to the right person and all that. But if you do that, things will not lost in the way. So this is good. You put RFID for tracking. So process can be fully automated without any human intervention. And of course, with technology like Effendy is using blockchain, that blockchain have smart contracts. And IoT, whenever it triggers certain thing, instead of sending an alert, it's sending a smart contract alerts. So you can provide a smart, initiating a smart contract between another party without any human intervention in between. So I think for us, we see also a lot of the digital is happening now, and a lot of companies are not turning digital. Our company ourselves have been doing this for quite some time. And we see also that there's a lot of challenges that happen. Of course, the market in Malaysia, as compared to the market in Indonesia, has a very big difference, the Gamal Muhaimin, because the market in Indonesia is very huge, as compared to Malaysia, which is multiple times lower than that. But because of that market, the consumer market is big, it's easier if there is a market that can have a better traction. So I think it's important for startups to have very fast traction, very fast way of getting product market fit into the market as fast as possible, so that they can sustain themselves and become sustainable. That's very important. We need to see that the whole ecosystem have access to the right fundings. So we want to have investors, when they look at technologies, something that is something which is quite risky, but you need to support them, because technology is something which is very fragile and agile manner. But we are seeing a lot of companies in Malaysia too that have grown quite fast and quite big. For example, here in Malaysia, one of the technology companies like Aerodyne, one of the drone companies, drone market is quite big. And recently, Aerodyne has become one of the drone service, #1 drone service player in the world. So it's quite good. And they have gone very fast because they do acquisitions, you know, big companies, drone companies worldwide, and they become that. So in terms of us, like for example, Favorite IoT, what we like to help is also to enable other startups in the area of IoT to grow too. So in fact, we do have a platform, what we call the Favorite IoT platform as a service. So we offer this platform for the other applications provider or even startup who wants to build an IoT solutions can easily connect their sensors to the platform and create their own applications, collect their own data, and they do analysis. So we have encouraged this, and we have seen that there's a lot of people already around the world have been using the platform. So in this way, we reach out the market, not only from local, and we have seen our market have now reached about 20% of the users of the platform is overseas, but hopefully we have more, in fact, hopefully in Indonesia too. Yeah. So that's how we see that the challenge is always there in terms of traction. We need to have fast to the market, and we need to have access to the funding. But again, this challenge will be overcome when we have, you know, able to break out from our current thinking. Yeah. So our perspective, Effendy. Thanks.
Thank you to Dr. Mazlan. I can say that that the idea for you that we need to have, I mean, the challenges on the fast adoption to the market is very important because the impact from the funding also will influence the successful story to the startup, right? And when you mentioned about the sensor, I think maybe the politician, the authorities will scare to you. Because you can create a lot of I mean like James Bond equipment, right, to spy people. Yeah, but hopefully something that we can improve in terms of our policies, authorities in order to counter the corruption, right? I think technology can be used to counter, to reduce the bribery issue, the corruption. What happened to the countries like Scandinavia? They use a lot of technology like blockchain tech for integrity, like tech for integrity, also very famous in Western world. And of course, IoT is a core for the IoT 4.0, will be very important on the sensors mechanism to capture the data. And back to Pak Iqbal on renewable energy. So Pak Iqbal, you can unmute your speaker. Yeah, Pak Iqbal. Yeah, can please. Yeah, Pak Iqbal. So my question to you, also I comment two situations. First, what is the challenges in your industries? Because why? When it comes to renewable sector, energy, on the renewable energy, a lot of issues on regulation will be very, very headache, right? Because you want to disrupt, we can say to disrupt the traditional sector that control or monopoly by the government. Right, of course, regulation and the authority. Maybe a clash on that, first, the question. And second, how you want to make new energy is a core commodity. So what is your strategy on that? First, the challenges, regulation, authority, government, traditional thinking methodology. And second, the opportunities and how you can create new energy as a core community. The floor is yours. The floor is yours, Pak Iqbal. Well, please unmute, yeah. Okay.
Basically, we learn a lot from blockchain or distributed ledger technology. Basically, that's you know that's how Bitcoin can make all other world currencies become very much less powerful. They compared to they used to be. But the same with the energy sectors. You know that during fossil era, energy has become the toys for the big guys. You know that big corporation and so on. But during the renewable era, resources very much distributed, and the regulation will be powerless during the renewable energy era. Why? I give you an example. If you buy a solar panel to put in your top of your house, for example, then how government can protect you from doing that? Then how the utility company can protect you from doing that? They cannot do anything because you buy it and use it yourself. Let's say, if I do the same, I make a small engine, small machine, what we call it micro refinery power plant, for example, and then corporation, industry buy my product, and then they can process their own fuel. Then who can prevent from doing that? You know, because we are not selling the energy, we are not selling, but we are selling the machine. So the people can buy them. What they buy then from the community, they can buy garbage like Dr. Gamal has. They can buy, you know, waste oil cooking oil, for example, any other thing that you can process. So what they are doing is actually provide market access for the people around them, and then process with their machine into the energy. Then the regulation, they must think twice. How can regulate this? So this is why the biggest challenge is the mindset of everybody, including the regulators. That's because the world needs this clean energy, and the United Nations agreed that every people should have access on clean energy. But the people in the government, people in the big corporation, energy corporation, they are very reluctant to change, you know. They were very reluctant basically to allow these small people like us to have their own energy. So this is what we are trying to do. That's what we are doing in Energy Asia, New Energy. That's why we call ourselves as New Energy Asia, because we want to keep educating people that during the renewable era, during the SDG area, and particularly during the net zero area, that's now start from November, become a buzzword in the world energy, the net zero energy emission, so basically, then everybody must think differently. Same like the central bank people, when they see the blockchain, the Bitcoin, for example, they must think it's totally different to understand that the nature, the force of the nature that they cannot prevent, you know, they should support it, or otherwise then they will basically hinder the people from getting the advancement of the technology. So the same with the energy. So for our innovation, for example, basically, same like Dr. Gamal says, that just do what you can do, and then worry the regulation later. Because if we build the regulation, then people in the innovation, our innovators, would not move, will not make any change if we build the government to, you know, to allow us for doing this, doing that, you know. So this is the way. So the biggest challenge to answer your question is basically to change the mindset of the people. Not only people in the common people like us, but also people who sit as a ministry, sit at the Directorate General or something like that, to change their mind. That's the renewable energy, distributed energy generation, distributed fuel production will come similar the way where the blockchain of Bitcoin come. So the people can produce either from solar, from wind, from whatever, and then in our case we introduce a commodity, as you ask, a commodity, what we call it Tamanu seed, or Tamanu oil seed, TOS. Tamanu oil seed is a particular plant that everybody can plant this, and if they want to do not process this seed, they can sell it in packet or something like that. They can see everywhere. You can send it everywhere, and then processed by whoever they have this small machine that we develop. So we have already the miniature of the process, and a lot of research, of course, need to be done. But long before year 2030, where the SDG come, I believe that our machine and we start planting this. If you are in Malaysia or Indonesia, wherever you want to start to planting these trees, the very high oil producing trees, and can survive in very difficult area, we can provide the seed because we donate it under Wakaf scheme. Whoever want to plant, we just give the seed, because with the Wakaf fund, we can now already have a lot of this seed, and everybody want to plant, we can send the seed to be planted, and then at the same time the plantation grow, then our technology will be mature by that time. So this is the first is the challenge of the mindset as well. Okay, return to you.
Thank you. Thank you to IR Pak Iqbal on a very good explanation. When you mentioned, hello, can you hear me? Something like I'm lagging here.
Certainly.
Oh, okay. So when you mentioned about the toys for the big guy, energy is a toys for the big guy, and then when you mentioned about the mindset of the people that we need, the regulators need to be changed, right? They need to understand the force of nature, the power of the people, especially on the technology, right? We cannot prevent the enhancement of the innovation. That's a nature. We can say
we lost Effendy.
Wendy, we lost you.
I think organizer should take over.
Hello, good morning everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Zamiro. I'll be taking over from here on. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's continue with this session. Give me a second.
You have question and answer session, Brother Effendy?
Yeah. So do you guys mind if we go into the question and answer session? Let's open it to the floor.
Yeah, I have questions.
Yeah. Please, sir.
Yeah. Assalamualaikum. My name is Fauzan from Tripa IT, also from International Islamic University, Malaysia. I'm going to ask my question to Dr. Mazlan Abbas. Alhamdulillah, we go advanced on Internet of Things and Internet of Everything. My worry is about the value-based technology, like what Prof. Osman Bakar mentioned, his keynote speaker, and also what Tristan Harris said in the Social Dilemma, where people go to attractive economy with the artificial social media and artificial intelligence. Then we end up, the bottom line is, as you said, revenues or commercial base. So how are we going to bring these societal or value base for sake of the society excellence rather than commercial excellence? So because you can see all private companies or commercial, they just bottom line is what is your income. It's not how the people's happy or successful in their life. So thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Encik Fauzan. It's a very interesting and also difficult question. I think in almost any business, it's all about commercial, because in order for them to sustain in their business, somehow they have to find ways of providing or getting the revenue. In fact, when we started off the whole solution, we need to find the right business model. And in order for a company to sustain and ensuring the solutions to be widely provided to the end users, somehow someone needs to make that. Someone needs to invest or pay for the services. One answer is that if you're just looking at the government themselves, who have allocated certain amount of budget for the people, and they can subsidize the solution. So sometimes it's more on social enterprise based. It's not necessarily it's going to make real money out of that. I give an example where solutions to track people who are having COVID, and the government is subsidizing the whole solution by providing devices for them to track. So instead of the users themselves have to pay for that devices, then the government have to make that payment. But the company actually were providing that kind of services. So other ways is that in Malaysia, when we started off the whole project, the government also have that kind of what we call a matching grant, some form of matching grant. So it will not be totally 100% by the government, but the company themselves have to find ways of how to fork out their money and giving that kind of solutions. I don't have the answer yet. Even when we have our own solutions, initially we have Rakib. Rakib is a wearable device. It's meant to monitor the elderly people at home. So the question is, who's going to pay for that monitoring of the elderly services? Is it the end users, their children, or another business model where it will be paid by the hospital, but provide the services to by the insurance company or to the people themselves? So finding the right business model in ensuring all parties have a win-win situation is the best way. But still we are in the searching mode, find that real good business model. Yeah, sorry don't have the real answer yet. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Mazlan. What a wonderful answer. Any other last questions that we want to take? If not, I want to ask a question. So, Dr. Gamal, one thing is I congratulate you with all you've done in Indonesia. So, how do we see this sort of movement expands in the Southeast Asian region, especially the developing economy in Cambodia, Laos? How do you expect us to replicate what you've done in Indonesia towards other areas?
Okay, thank you, Pak, for your question. I think, if we talk about innovation, there is some step we should throw. For example, first, as a startup, and then how could survive, and then after that sustain, and then we discuss about replication, how to replicate it and scale up our innovation. But I think if we combine this step with the problem, we should make sure that we replicate the innovation in the right location. So if we learn about human-centered design or design thinking, we will learn that we must here create and deliver advertise, so define problem, and then we continue to ideation, and then continue again prototype and test the idea. So that's, I think, how the question is, and our objective also, how replicate in the right location and identify the problem for every location. So I mean, not this innovation must be replicated in another region. Maybe, for example, in other country, how access not become main problem. For example, Indonesia, if we look at the data for the survey in the last year, COVID-19 is 33% of the problem in the community. So if you ask people in Indonesia, what your main problem? 33% said that COVID-19, and 22% they discuss about high price of food, and about 11-12% people said about jobs, and it's also unemployment result from the COVID-19 also become. So I mean, instead of we try to focus in the replicate or innovation to other region, we should back to the main concept of the innovation that's define a problem and create new solution. And besides that, if we talk about the next step of development, I think collaborate and empower social entrepreneur is very important in the future. I believe, for example, now we have a problem, but we also have opportunity. For example, in my country, like dividend demography or bonus demography, and besides that, we have technology, as a lot of things they have discussed by Pak Iqbal and Pak Mazlan Abbas. I think it's very important for us to clearly use technology to fight against problems. So like leapfrog strategy. Developed country and developing country, I think, have diverse treatment to create a solution, and technology help our country to grow quickly than before. And I believe leapfrog strategy with technology is our best strategy right now, and it will be very effective if we support young people to develop the innovation. People is very powerful. One people, for example, like Muhammad Yunus, I learned a lot of information about his action, and I find great information that his action helped the country to increase GDP between 2 until 3%. Could you imagine one people can help to improve and increase the GDP of the nation? So investing on the people to become entrepreneur, social entrepreneur, technopreneur, I think it's very important, because this activity will emphasize the creativity and social awareness and empower people to solve the problem. So we are not really again on government to solve the problem, as Mazlan and Pak Iqbal also said before. Ask what you can do, ask what you can give, ask what you can create. I think that's the main idea that I want to mention based on your question. So focus to empower social entrepreneur and identify the problem, and I think it will be our strength and our opportunity to grow and fight in the future. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Inspiring. We would love to know more soon, but we are short in time. I'll pass it back to our brother Effendy. Effendy, give us your last thoughts.
Boleh. Okay, thank you. So I'm so sorry because something happened in my place, in Cyberjaya, the whole Cyberjaya, the internet problem. I'm so sorry about this. This is my first time ever as a moderator since past 45 years. I just want. Amirul, have you raised a question to Mr. Johan? Hello? Hello?
Effendy, could you please resolute it for us? We will short on time, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Have you raised a question to Mr. Johan just now?
No, we're short on time, sir.
Oh, all right. Okay. So I think I shall open for the Q&A from participant before we shall end our session for this afternoon. So I would like to open any Q&A. I think we can have a 5 minutes Q&A from participants. Yeah. Opinion to share before we shall end to our to next session with Professor Dr. Al-Akiti Afif. All right. By that, I think I would like to go for the summary. I would like to request Dr. Mazlan, maybe 1 minute for our conclusion. Anything from you? Anything from your thoughtful ideas to the participant that related to our discussion for today. So I pass over to you, Dr. Mazlan.
Okay, thanks, Effendy. Just a few last words. For me, I would like to see countries, Malaysia or Indonesia. I think we have seen sometimes we are too much on consuming a lot of products from overseas, meaning to say we are a consumer nation. So I don't like that term of consumer nation where we import technologies, consume them instead of producing our own. So we should be able now in a stage where we become a producer nation. We produce our own product, we produce our own technology, and then we export it overseas. So the idea is for us to grow into an innovative country, innovative nation, where we also increase the knowledge of our people, and then the value of our people. Then the graduates will have a higher pay, because people will pay you because a higher salary because we have that knowledge. So if you are just a consumer nation, that's it. You are not bring much value. So hopefully one day all of us can become that kind of nation. Thank you.
All right, producer nation, focus, localize it, and go to the global. And now, Mr. Johan, please share your conclusions for our discussion.
Okay, thank you, Effendy. Since you mentioned you are involved in blockchain, I think I just want to share that last year, South Korea announced their plan to create a free trade zone for industrial hemp using blockchain. So the country plans to actually create a free trade zone for all the industrial hemp related to industry and also the medicinal value of it. So that's my sharing on the industrial hemp segment. Thank you for the opportunity and for NOOR conference for organizing this event.
Okay, and then Dr. Gamal, we have met past 5 years, right? We, inshallah, this year we do a lot of collaboration. Alhamdulillah, a little bit short and sweet on the summary conclusion from Dr. Gamal to all of our participants here.
Okay, thank you, Pak Effendy, for the time given to me. So maybe my conclusion about our discussion today is about impact. Yeah. So our focus, let's begin with the end in mind. Yeah. Don't try to impress people, but focus to impact people, because impress will be lost, but impact will survive. Maybe you are impressive, but are you impactful? So let's all of us turn our idea into impact and empower ourselves, our team, and people surrounds us to create impact for society. And besides that, I believe with the power of young people and technology. So give opportunity for youth people. I believe now we are bringing our country or the world in the millennial takeover. So combine the potential of youth people and combine it with technology, also will become the future of Indonesia and ASEAN. And last, maybe my point for today is about the innovation. There is some option we can create innovation, and how could we create a sustainable innovation in the future? There is some type of innovation, but in my experience, it's very important to combine it, or maybe aligning the existing problem with your patient. So it's important to know yourself and choose which one of the problem that you want to solve, and improve your competence, portfolio, and great achievement, and get the trust of the public. It will give opportunity for you to enlarge impact. Okay, that's my point, Pak Effendy. And thank you once again for the opportunity. I hope
thank you.
Everyone stay healthy, stay productive, and let's collaborate in the future.
And then last but not least, please, Pak Iqbal, share your thoughts, share your visionary ideas on the new energy, and then your advice to the people, to the participants. Yes.
Basically, what we are visioning is with New Energy Asia is basically we want to deliver or bring the what we call it the energy independency for people. People like us should be able to choose our own energy. We are not have to buy energy that provided by the big guys, and we must have a choice. That's our purpose, is that if our energy is cheap and flexible and green, people can choose it. If not, then people can do that. So because energy is the second biggest business after food, so we must grab it. People must become their own business, no longer become only belonging to the big guys. So this is the opportunity in the bioeconomy era, particularly in the next 10 years, will be a big difference in the energy delivery business and energy producing business, and should belong to us, to everybody who want to do this. That's my end remark, and so hopefully we can doing something good together between us in Indonesia and Malaysia and all the ASEAN countries. Thank you.
Inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we have a summary from all the speakers, or the panel speakers, for the participants, for all everybody here that want to have a collaboration. Please do to contact the organizer, because why? Dr. Mazlan Abbas, Dr. Gamal, Mr. Johan, and of course Pak Iqbal. We are ready to do some collaboration after this session. It's not just a talk, it's not just for awareness, but of course we want to go for the adoption for the tech. especially Pak Iqbal mentioned just now, is about empowerment the people. Empowerment, the startup, right? So we have a same page here. We have all the powerful people in the tech, like Dr. Mazlan, Dr. Gamal, Pak Iqbal, and of course Mr. Johan with a powerful R&D on new tech, food security. Let's do our work. Let's not impress anymore. We want to give impact, like Dr. Gamal mentioned just now. Alhamdulillah, we are now at the end of our session. I would like to express utmost gratitude to the organizer for having us here, and let's go collaborate and empower the people, empower the startup, and we go for the tech that can have solutions into the nation, into the region. Alhamdulillah, inshallah. By that, I would like to pass back to the organizer, and please join the next session with the Professor Afif Al-Akiti. Thank you.
Attendees are reminded to ensure that their respective electronic devices are in silent mode. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated. Thank you. The event will begin in 10 minutes with an opening montage display. Yang berbahagia, Datuk Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti, Fellow of Islamic Studies, Oxford University and Orang Besar 8 Perak, Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Emeritus Professor Datuk Dr. Osman Wakar, holder of Al-Ghazali Chair of Epistemology and Civilizational Studies and Renewal at the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, International Islamic University, Malaysia. Yang berusaha, Tuan Muhammad Faisal Abdul Aziz, President of Muslim Youth Movement Malaysia, Angkatan Belia Islam Malaysia APIM, the speakers and panelists, Tan Sri, Puan Sri, Datuk, Datin, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very blessed day to everyone. I'm Erin Marikan, your MC for the second half of our conference. Greetings and welcome to the closing ceremony of NOOR Conference 2021, Good Governance Quest for the Future. Since the pandemic hit, we have shifted to a fully digitalized world where today we have come together and explore a few core tenets in regards to today's theme. During the morning session, Professor Emeritus Dr. Osman Bakar had opened a new perspective relating Islam and good governance. And then we've had a deep discussions on economy and geopolitics. Just now, we finished another two interesting topics on technology and education. We really hope all panelists and attendees enjoy the sessions as well as gaining new knowledge for future. We will then continue our session with a closing address by Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. Thus, I would like to call upon Tuan Fazri Salid, Secretary General of ALBIM, Coordinator for NOOR Malaysia, to moderate the session. Tuan Fazri Salid, please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And a very good day. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Rabbana shrah lana sudurana wa yassir lana umurana wa hlul 'uqdatan min alsinatina yafqahu aqwalana. Yang berbahagia, Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti, Fellow of Islamic Studies, Oxford University, and orang besar 8 Perak, Malaysia. Yang berbahagia, Emeritus Professor Dr. Osman Bakar, holder of Al-Ghazali Chair of Epistemology and Civilization Studies and Renewal at the ISTAC IIUM. Yang berusaha Tuan Muhammad Faisal Abdul Aziz, President of Muslim Youth Movement of Malaysia, ABIM. Speakers, panelists, our strategic partners, Tan Sri, Puan Sri, Datuk, Datin, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen. Greetings, welcome Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. Also, thanks to all of you. We have gone through several sessions since 9 a.m. We have heard an insightful lecture from and keynote address this morning from Yang Berbahagia Emeritus Professor Dr. Osman Bakar, our teacher, our guru, alhamdulillah. Then we got a great discussion under 4 focuses, segments, component of geopolitics, economics, technology, and also education. Ladies and gentlemen, we will then have this special occasion, special address from our Sheikh, our teacher, Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. And he's now live from Oxford. And welcome, Sheikh, again. Let me first introduce our respectable speaker, Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti is the Kuwait Fellow in Islamic Studies at the Oxford Center for Islamic Studies and lecturer in Islamic Studies at the Faculty of Theology, Oxford University's oldest faculty. He is the first ever Malaysian to be appointed to such a position in this famous university. His areas of expertise are Islamic theology, law, and science. Sheikh Dr. Afifi, who comes from Malaysia, specifically from Perak, was educated originally at the feet of the ulama of the Muslim world. And in 2010, he was made a member of the Ulama Council by the Sultan of Perak, His Royal Highness Sultan Nazrin Shah. In 2012, he became the orang kaya-kaya Imam Paduka Tuan as an orang besar 8 of Perak and elected into the private council of the state, the Dewan Negara, constitutionally as a life peer. Since 2010, Dr. Afifi has been listed in the Muslim 500, the world's 500 most influential Muslims. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, the ceremony respectfully welcomes Sheikh Dato' Afifi Al-Akiti to deliver his closing address. But before that, this is just a good news for all of us. Sheikh just now said to us that he is happy to have question and answer session after this. So Sheikh, please welcome. The floor is yours. فَلْتَفَضَّلْ مَشْكُورًا.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Secretary General Mazlan Abbas. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Alhamdulillah. Hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Just to make sure that you all can hear me and the sound is loud and clear. I think this is one of those things that if we are actually online, you never know, things may or may not work according to our plan. So I hope that this is loud and clear, right? Secretary General, can you hear me? I
Close and just make your voice louder.
Oh, okay.
To make that the Zoom can capture your voice.
So okay, is the camera
better? Alhamdulillah.
Can you hear me now? Yeah. Yeah. And hello, testing. So am I on the video now? Actually.
Check. Yes, you are in the video now.
Okay, sorry. So I can start. All right.
Yeah.
Can't wait for things to go back to normal, inshallah. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alladhi ja'ala al-adla maqsad al-shari'at al-asil. Wassalat wassalamu ala rasulih al-kareem. Li tabligh al-shari'ah wa iqamat al-adl fi al-ahkam. Wa ala alihi wa ashabi ajma'in. To all of our friends, in fact, I just heard that, mashallah, Dr. Osman is here. It's a very good old friend, the chair of Imam Al-Ghazali in Malaysia at the Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization, ISTAC, at the International University of Malaysia, the president of ABIM, Tuan Faisal, and Secretary General of ABIM. Alhamdulillah. Hadirin wa hadirat sekalian, rahimakumullah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Now, I've been asked to basically say a few words at this closing ceremony, and it's an honor to be invited. Alhamdulillah. Thank you to this, I'm sure, wonderful conference. It was great to hear the recap just now by the Secretary General. So this is in fact in the morning here in Oxford. So it's just, alhamdulillah, I haven't had my breakfast yet, but had my subuh prayer already. So this is going to be food for thought for myself, first and foremost, and with all you. So I haven't really been able to prepare much except for coming out of Salat. So I hope that the antenna and the satellite dish is, inshallah, very good, connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, in this. And I've been given the topic, cultivating good governance between the Muslim world and the West. And in fact, the original topic that was given was something to do with cultivating good governance and developing national ethos. And I thought that when you mean national ethos here means probably Malaysia in the context of your conference. Although I'm speaking from Oxford, I am of course a Malaysian. But then I suggested perhaps, with the president of ABIM, that perhaps, we want to give a bit of although that is a very good intention to think of developing a national ethos. But it would be very good as well for us to think quite critically when we talk about good governance, to also compare and see where this comes from, this notion, this idea of good governance, indeed, particularly to compare it with the so-called West, because we always take for granted, I think. People always use the West as the role model, as the mithal, as the example and the exemplar. But they don't realize sometimes that, in fact, the Mithalu Sabiq, the precedent, actually is closer to home, in fact. And this is what I want to talk about, because, and I think it's partly because of our inferiority complex, you know, as Muslims, particularly when we've lost, you know, political authority in the world, something which we had taken for granted, certainly, you know, 1400 years ago, when Muslims used to rule the world. Muslims used to be the first world, not the third world. Muslims used to be in the golden India during their golden age, you know, the epitome, the mithal, the role model of good governance. Whereas today, and I think this is encapsulated best, I think, in the famous saying, but some ulama actually, quite a number of ulama, if not a lot of ulama, you know, say that this is a mawdu', a fabricated saying of the famous Sheikh al-Azhar, of course, of the late 19th century, i.e. Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, when he said famously, well, you know, this is a saying which is not quite confirmed whether he actually did say it. According to Sheikh Muhammad Imara, for example, he hasn't found anywhere where Muhammad Abduh had said this. ذهبت إلى الغرب وجدت الإسلام بغير مسلمين ورجعت إلى الشرق وجدت مسلمين بغير الإسلام. So, in a very famous saying, of course, a tribute to Sheikh Muhammad Abduh, I went to the West and saw it, but no Muslims. I got back to the East and saw Muslims, but no Islam. But, you know, disregarding whatever Sheikh Muhammad Imara and other of the ulama say, that this is not a saying of Muhammad Abduh. In fact, I in my own particular reading, I found that actually an earlier, quite famous ulama, Imam Rifa' Tahtawi, during the earlier 19th century, when Muhammad Ali, the famous governor, the Pasha of Egypt, sent him to France, actually he said, now this is something that I found in his memoirs to, you know, as an imam spending his time in Paris, he said, Wajatul Islam bighar muslimin, you know, fi Faransa. I saw Islam in France without Muslims. Wajatul Muslimin fi Misra bighar Islam. And I saw Muslims in Egypt without Islam. So that was the saying of Tahtawi, which is confirmed, and I can confirm that, you know, mashallah. But, you know, it doesn't really matter. I think whether Abduh said that or not, you know, that, you know, when he went to the West, he saw Islam and but no Muslims. And when he got back to the East, he saw Muslims but no Islam. But this basically shows the side of inferiority complex in the attitude that we Muslims have, you know, today. And not only during their time, but during the time of Abduh and Tahtawi, but of course today. I mean, the typical example is we would say, for instance, you know, for instance, Japanese are cleaner than Muslims today. And people go to Japan, or people who have Japanese friends, they notice that, mashallah, you know, Japanese people are on the whole very clean people, you see, when they compare it to Muslims. Sometimes when they say, oh, Muslims not clean. So, and it's an irony, because the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a Sahih hadith, famous hadith, from Al-Harith bin Asim Al-Ash'ari, this famous hadith, Tuhur Shatrul Iman, right? That cleanliness is a part of our faith. So despite that, you know, we have people saying Japanese are cleaner than Muslims. But why is that? Hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah. I mean, you know, it's symptomatic of the fact that I think when we've lost our adab, when we've lost our civility, when we've lost our sincerity, and we've lost our prosperity, I think I saw the sort of tagline of your conference there. This is what can happen, that you lose confidence of yourself, and then you look to other people, basically from outside of your civilization even, as a reference point. And that's not, you know, it's not surprising. It is quite a natural thing, you know, for that to be the case. But we must remember now that despite Imam Tahtawi going to France, saying that he saw Islam in France with no Muslims, and he saw Muslims in Egypt, you know, but without Islam, we must remember now, in this day and age, Muslims are already, in fact, so I'm one of those Muslims who are in the West, living, staying, and residing, working in the West. This is quite a different world now. It's not as what it used to be before, that there were no Muslims in the West, including Japan, for example, when we include the meaning of the West, Japan here, for instance, in that sense. There are Muslims also in Japan. So I think in this respect, when we talk about cultivating good governance between the Muslim world and the West, I just want to bring this sense that when we try and compare, we want to try and look for something that is actually, an example, a model that we want to try and follow, for instance. And so when we talk about that, I think we should have insaf that, in fact, from the earliest days of Islam, our religion has always taught us good governance. So what is it, ladies and gentlemen? What is the meaning of good governance here? I think it's an interesting question, because I don't want to philosophize about this, but I think if you were to try and look up even the dictionary or the encyclopedia reference works about what is the meaning of good governance, among the various things that I've actually read, one that is quite current, I think, would be somebody that I think you want to refer to, particularly from the West, since we're talking about cultivating good governance between the Muslim world and the West, would be the famous political scientist Francis Fukuyama. So he said, in fact, in one of his writings, he defined what is governance, basically. So what is good governance? And governance, he said, good and bad, depends on two things, right? This is Francis Fukuyama saying, number one, depends on the capability of the state, meaning here the capability of the governing body. So in Arabic we would say quwwah, the ability of basically that one governing body to be able to rule, to be effective, or to project its power, basically. And secondly, he says that good governance, or governance, good or bad, is dependent on the bureaucracy's autonomy. Okay? And so this is interesting. I mean, I don't want to go into the details of both the political impact as well as the economic impact of this. He himself, of course, is a political scientist, and in political economy, of course, they go into greater detail about. But it's sufficient for us to reflect on what Francis Fukuyama means by what he thinks is actually good governance, certainly from a Western perspective, from a Western standpoint, that it is the capability of the state to rule, right? And the bureaucracy's autonomy. And here we would be able to interpret the state into other things. And if it's a company, then the capability of the board of the company, or the governing body of the company to rule, for instance, and the bureaucracy's autonomy. So the management or the system of that company basically is autonomous. It is, in fact, independent here. And if we were to reflect on that, we would actually, not surprisingly, for me, of course, not surprising, but maybe for a lot of you, you would be surprised to know that, in fact, whether Fukuyama realizes it or not, right? He actually was following, or rather, the criteria of the Quran when we talk about good governance here. What I would call the Mosaic Criteria, which is basically the definition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has informed us as to the criteria describing our Prophet Musa alayhi salam, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Qasas, right? When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala famously described, famously say through, in this case, the story of the woman when Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Moses, of course, was making his hijrah from Egypt to Palestine, and in the middle of this desert, of course, he was found by this family, and this lady basically described to her father, Inna khayra man istajarta al-qawiyul amin, right? To employ Nabi Allah Musa alayhi salam. Why? Because he has these two characteristics that will make him not only employable, but in an epitome in this case of governance. Name the best of the one that you can basically make use of in your employment. Inna khairam al-qawiyyu al-amin is the one who has the capability, the professionalism. So this is like what Francis Fukuyama is saying, the capability of the state, the capability of the person, the capability of the company, the quwwah, basically the skill set that you need to actually have, right? But not only that you need to be al-amin, you need to be trustworthy. And that's why it is not a surprising thing that when you sit on a board of a company, for example, you become trustee of that company, even in the modern sense of the word. Al-amin wal-umana, for instance. So it's interesting that even when you become an independent director of a company, for instance, that you have to fulfill according to, the laws of not only in Malaysia, but in the United Kingdom or the United States, you need to fulfill your fiduciary duty. Why? Because as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says here in the Quran, this is the best characteristic of, someone to be employed. Why? Because this person will have good governance. Why? Because if he or she has the skill set, basically the capability, right? As Fukuyama says. But secondly, also well, in the words of Fukuyama, the bureaucracy's autonomy, meaning the person can be trusted. The person is actually independent. So this is the meaning of trustworthy, being trustworthy, basically. This is key. And something which, if we reflect on this, mashallah, Fukuyama's criteria is exactly the sort of, not exactly, but it's comparable and something we can compare with the Mosaic criteria as mentioned in the Quran, of the sense of good governance there. But what is it that, if we want to actually have good governance, what that we want to basically lead to is the bigger question. And I think this is the more important thing for us to ask, ladies and gentlemen. Why do we need good governance? And I think asking that, and if we're looking again, from that verse from Surah Al-Qasas, Inna khayra man ista'jarta al-qawiyyu al-amin. Why is it important for us to have someone who is capable and professional, and at the same time someone who is, trustworthy? Why is it important to be trustworthy here? It's because, at least in my view, and this is something where I'm sure philosophers, political scientists, economists, and ulama and others, of course, will continue to debate. And I believe that part of that means that you need to learn to uphold the rule of law. I think this is a very important mark, to why we need to have good governance, why we need to cultivate good governance. It's to uphold the rule of law. And at the root of it, if you look at the meaning of, Fukuyama when he says the bureaucracy's autonomy, so this is a very typical example. Malaysia, for example, is going through, alhamdulillah, part of what I consider a maturing process politically. In Malay, sawa matang or something, I don't know, you're maturing. We are going through our growing pains. I don't know, and I grew up in Malaysia. I remember there was this American sitcom or American comedy. I forgot it was this young guy. Is it Growing Up? I can't remember. Maybe I've forgotten the name of the, it's Growing Pains, Growing Up or something about a boy growing up. And, it's going through your, not only your rites of passage, religiously, but rites of passage in life, So I don't want to go in detail now, but I think everybody growing up will have to go through this period of growing pains, this process of maturing. And Malaysia is no different as a country. And developing this national ethos means that you actually have to go through this. You actually have to mature yourself. And so we've had, for the first time after 60 years, I suppose, in 2018, a change of government, right? And then now, since, as my own ruler, the Sultan of Perak, His Royal Highness Sultan Azim Shah mentioned, of course, quite recently in one of his speeches, we've actually had 3 prime ministers in 3 years. So that's quite, I don't know whether to say that's an achievement. It's an achievement of sorts, of course, from one point. But, from another point, from a political stability standpoint, one could argue, this cannot happen too many times. you know, otherwise. But you know, this is the thing. But what's interesting is that during the times when we had these changes of government, what is it that is supposed to remain constant? Well, it's the bureaucracy. And this is when Fukuyama, he says the bureaucracy's autonomy is, you know, if it's there, it is a mark of good governance, he said, right? And so that's why our civil servants will need to make sure that they carry out their utmost duty to make sure that they become impartial, you see, to serve whichever government of the day is basically ruling. And this, in a sense, is a very Islamic ethos, because why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that already, the capability to rule is one thing, to have the al-qawi, that power, right? But then al-amin. So you have to be trustworthy, you have to be true to not only yourself in this, but true in the system that you are basically put there, to make sure that you carry out your duties there, because this is what the civil servants are supposed to do. So I hope you can see, you know, somebody, you know, if we get the chance to see Francis Fukuyama, and say, well, you know, what you say about governance, good or bad, depends on these two things: the capability, the power of the state, and the bureaucracy's autonomy. Actually, is a very Quranic inspired, mashallah, you know, insight, right? And this is what we see now in Malaysia. If the civil service is not autonomous, if it is not independent, then the bureaucracy will not be able to actually, you know, be efficient in running the state, you see. So I think, given that we see that, it is particularly important that we understand, therefore, the whole reason why we need to cultivate good governance is why, in this case, the civil servants need to uphold the rule of law, right? It is what we say in the Malaysian national context, of course, you know, from our Rukun Negara, Kedaulatan Undang-Undang, right? And it is for this reason, ladies and gentlemen, hadirin wa hadirat sekalian, rahimakumullah. You know, I truly believe that because Islam had brought these basic, if you like, building bricks that had made the Islamic civilization once upon a time, you know, during their golden age, of course, the first world. They were not the third world. They were the light of the world. The Dark Ages was in Europe at that time. These are the sorts of values that were taught by our religion through the Quran, through the word of Allah, and through the teachings and the Sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It is through the teaching of upholding the rule of law, the idea that we need to follow the Sharia there, right? The idea of kedaulatan undang-undang, you know, gave rise to constitutionalism, basically. And this is absolutely important. And it is for this reason, hadirin hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, it is not a surprise that the very first dua, in fact, recited at the Merdeka of 1957, right? That was during His Majesty. Then was, you see, people always forget. We have Tengku Abdul Rahman, who was our first Prime Minister. But don't forget, our first His Majesty, ke bawah Duli Yang Maha Paduka, Seri Paduka Yang di-Pertuan Agong, was actually from Negeri Sembilan. So his name was also Abdul Rahman, but he's Tuanku Abdul Rahman. And those of us who come from Perak, those of you who come from Perak, so I just want to be, you know, just want to be fair here, and no Ipoh, right? So there's a call called STAR, Sekolah Tuanku Abdul Rahman, not Tengku Abdul Rahman, right? You know, just don't confuse the two. But it's one of the most amazing thing about being, mashallah, Malaysians in this case, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, what a blessed country. You know, the first king and the first prime minister share the same name, just except one is Tuanku and the other one is Tengku. So anyway, because the first king is basically from Negeri Sembilan, it was not a surprise that the Mufti who read the dua, you know, to declare, you know, at the ceremony, to declare Merdeka when Tuanku Abdul Rahman was there, right, was the Mufti of Negeri Sembilan, right, Sheikh Ahmad bin Muhammad Said. Right? And what was his dua? It was an amazing dua, and something we should be learning, and to cultivate good governance. And I don't want to be in this inferiority complex mindset anymore, that we think that everything in the West is so great. Well, we don't even have to go back to the Quran I've now pointed, but at least even you can go to the dua of Merdeka of 1957. Look at the dua of Mufti Ahmad bin Muhammad Said. What was his dua? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma waffiq Sair al-Ummal wal-Wuzara wal-Salatin wal-Umara li riayati umuriddin. Right? Allahumma wafiq. Oh Allah, give success to whom? These are the four people, or at least, you know, I know you gave five, but I just want to shorten it to four. Wafiq Sa'ir al-Umal. Umal, what is the meaning of Umal in Arabic? If you don't know, civil servants, the bureaucracy. Give success to the, and in his dua, he was the first one, the first category of people mentioned in the dua of Mufti Ahmad bin Muhammad Said, right? In 1957, the Stadium Merdeka was give success, give tawfiq to the bureaucrats. Why? Because they have to be autonomous. They have to be, they have to perform their duty basically, and to uphold the rule of law, to menegakkan kedaulatan undang-undang tu. And then who? Wuzara, perhaps people like myself. I mean, not wuzara meaning advisors, right? Ministers, advisors. I'm not a minister, but wuzara to kings, advisors, to rules, advisors to the leaders, wuzara, right? And number 3, Salatin, to the rulers, to the Sultan, because technically the Prime Minister is one of the wazir of the Sultan in our system. Right? The Prime Minister is an advisor to the king, right? And here in Malaysia, we are not unique because we follow the Westminster system, but Malaysian style, the UK is also like that, right? The Queen, of course, is served by the Prime Minister. So technically, the Prime Minister advises the Queen, formally at least, right? Although, in fact, in that constitutional monarchy, just like in Malaysia, the power actually does reside with, of course, the cabinet and the executive, certainly. And then number 4, he goes and actually says Salatin wal Muluk, so I'll combine that. But number 4, wal Umara. So give success, give tawfiq, ya Allah. This is the dua of Mufti during Merdeka, right? To the bureaucrats, to the advisors, the ministers, to the rulers, and to all of our leaders, right? In order to protect the affairs of our way of life, of our deen, wal muhafazati ala huquq muslimin, and to protect, right, the rights of the Muslim. But this third bit is the important bit that I wanted to graze. Wa iqamatil adli fil ahkam, and to uphold basically the rule of law, and to menegakkan kedaulatan undang-undang. By what? By making keadilan itu is tegakkan. Wa iqamatil adli fil ahkam. This is literally what it means there, is that to prop up al-adl, right? To prop up keadilan fil ahkam, all the rulings, meaning all the laws, etc., etc. So what it means is this is the meaning of upholding the rule of law. It comes from the dua of Mufti Ahmad bin Muhammad Said during the Merdeka. This is the meaning of kedaulatan undang-undang, right? And this is the very important part of his dua. And of course, he ends. He then continues with "Wa tamasuki bi fadailil Islam," and to stay firm to the good values, of Islam, the fadilah and the fadail of our religion, such as cultivating governance. Yeah. So, hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, I think it's important for me to share with you, I think, this sense that, good governance, why do we need it? It's because we want to, at the root of it, philosophically, at the root of it means that we need to learn to uphold the rule of law. This is the basic message of the Quran, basically. This is why I started my khutbah just now by saying that the al-adl, keadilan itu adalah, maqsad, the original objective, maqsadul al-asil of our Sharia. How many hundreds of verses talk about upholding justice in the Quran? Meaning there, the context of it is to uphold the rule of law. That was why when we were the first world, we were the land of the free, right? The non-Muslims in those days, whether in Central Asia, they were enemies, or whether even in Europe, they were Christians, right? But they were not land of the free. They were living in Zaman Kegelapan. Why? Because look at the Byzantine Empire, compare it with the Abbasids, for example, the Abbasiya, Khilafah. They couldn't even build mosques and synagogues in their land. They only allowed churches to be built. Whereas next door, in Muslim lands, mashallah, you can build not only masjid, but, churches, synagogue, Hindu temples, Buddhist, Hindu ashram, Buddhist temples, and so on and so forth. Subhanallah. So who was in the land of the free in those days? If you don't believe this sense, Well, then just go and watch the HBO famous kind of, I don't know, I mean, during the COVID lockdown, particularly in the US, when in a country with a culture where people actually do not like to watch subtitle movies, let alone series, 5 seasons, 500 episodes of Ertugrul. Right? Ertugrul, I think the Malaysians might say, but the real, in Turkish, Ertugrul. Who was what? The father of Sultan Osman, the first, the founder, the founder to the Ottoman state, the Ottoman Caliphate. Just look at that. I mean, you can see in person, wow, how when you live with Ertugrul, right, it's the land of the free compared to the Byzantine lands where you really have no freedom. This is what I mean here. Why? Why is this possible? Because of the message of the Quran. Al-adlu maqsudu syariatil asil. That keadilan, that justice, upholding justice, basically upholding the rule of law, that's what it means, is basically an original objective of our sacred life, of our sharia there. And this is something that we must not forget. That is why Mufti Ahmad bin Muhammad Said said in his beautiful dua that we must learn for our citizens, to learn to pray for the 4 categories of people: the bureaucrats, the advisors, and the ministers and the prime ministers, if you like, to the kings, right? To our kings. And these are who? All of these are our leaders, basically, including the bureaucrats, that they need to iqamatil adli fil ahkam, that they need to make sure that Allah give tawfiq for them so that they learn to uphold the rule of law, and that is absolutely very, very important. But hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, I mean, I've said this is the national ethos on the Malaysian side, which we had to go back to, go back to basics there. But actually, this is a very old thing, this rise of constitutionalism, from this upholding the rule of law. It is an old idea. Of course, in the West, the most famous idea, of course, is what? The Magna Carta. That was promulgated in the year 1215, in the 13th century. Now, if it is in the Western tradition, when people talk about the importance of the rule of law, they go back to the Magna Carta. What do they mean by this, by the way? Magna Carta, I'm sure you all know what it means. It's from the Latin magna, great, kabir, right? Carta is akad, perjanjian. Now, the Western people are so proud of this. I remember having to speak at the conference here in the UK about at the anniversary in 2015. It was, sorry, my maths is very bad. 2015 minus 12, 1215. So my wife's not here for me to ask now. Is it 700th anniversary? I don't know, Secretary General, you can help me. 800th anniversary of the Magna Carta? I don't know. Sorry. Is it 800 or 900th anniversary? Anyway, okay. So, but so in the West, they celebrate the Magna Carta. Why? Because it is an emblem when King John masa tu was the ruler here. He was an absolute ruler, and he tried to project himself as the absolute ruler. But the nobles, the orang-orang besar, of England masa tu, checked him and said, no, you have to have check and balance, right? You have to have check and balance. You cannot be a despot there, and that's why basically Magna Carta became famous. It is the first titik permulaan of the rise to constitutionalism in England. Right? Now, we should be proud, hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, especially as Malaysians, especially as the anak Nusantara, Muslims in the Nusantarans must be proud. Why? Because we also have our Magna Carta tradition, actually, in our tradition, not just an Islamic tradition, but a very Malay tradition, actually. You know why? Because if you look at Sejarah Melayu, the famous, one of the great books of the Malay world, written by Tun Sri Lanang in 1615, he wrote about this famous perjanjian, right? Which he called what? Wa'ad. First from the Arabic, wa'ad. Wa'ad, perjanjian, between who? Sang Sapurba, meaning on the ruler or the king side, and Demang Lebar Daun, right? Meaning on the noble side, the baron side. So what was the perjanjian? The basic, I mean, I don't want to go into detail. It's 2 pages long. You can read the whole thing. The gist of it is, Raja adil, Raja disembah, Raja zalim, Raja disanggah. That's the gist of it. That's the kind of the sumpah, if you like, And it was quite an amazing thing. And from that, we get the word daulat, by the way, in Malay, It's like barakah, that the Malays kedaulatan undang-undang, which is normally used for daulat tuanku, right? The power to the ruler there. Long live the king, right? Daulat tuanku. But, you know, from that story, you can see this daulat is linked to a social contract, because the Magna Carta, you know, is a social contract in 1215 between King John and his barons and his orang besar. The same also with Sangsa Purba and Demang Lebar Daun, right? As recounted by Tun Sri Lanang in Sejarah Melayu, you know, in the 17th century in 1615, right? So, you know, well, I may have got the date wrong. Sejarah Melayu could be 1612 or something like that, but you know, thereabouts anyway in the 17th century. But it is a social contract, reminding us that the ruler must make sure, you know, the king must make sure, the government must make sure, the state must make sure that they do what? They uphold justice, as what Allah says in the Quran. In return, the rakyat, the subjects, would obey, ta'at, daulat tuanku, right? Memang besarlah, you know, I mean, something like, I can't remember the exact phrase, daulat tuanku, you know, etc., 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 you know. So you please go back to Sejarah Melayu and read this wonderful story. But the point that I want to make here is that it is a social contract that led to this, right? And this whole idea of Raja Adil, Raja disembah, Raja Zalim, Raja disanggah, absolutely. It is a contract that we should be proud of in the Malay world. This is our own Magna Carta. That's why I can confidently say, hadirin muhadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, you know, this is the wa'ad in the Sejarah Melayu, but the wa'ad kabir. For us, politically, the wa'ad kabir. Truly, the Magna Carta of the Nusantara. Truly, the great contract, the great social contract. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. I mean, you know, and to make more tafakkur, more reflections on this. I mean, I'm reminded of this very nice saying, which a lot of Malays, unfortunately today, especially misunderstand. You know, biar mati anak, jangan mati adat. Right? And we're talking about the Negeri Sembilan here. I'm Perakhian just to show how independent, autonomous I can be here, right? So separation of powers, you know, in this case. So, you know, this is the thing. When we talk about adat, you always remember Negeri Sembilan. That's the thing, right? You know, and then people always, when they talk about adat, they always think adat is like adat resam, like bila nak kahwin, you know, like tak boleh langkah bendul sort of thing. I'm not sure what that means even. So, you know, yeah, I think if your eldest is, you know, belum kahwin lagi, you shouldn't get married. Fine. I mean, we should respect that if that is not against the teachings of Islam to the best of our ability, of course, you know. But the problem is that the Malaysians, or the Malays speaking, Malaysians and the Malays, you know, they really should understand actually adat is not just adat resam, not just hantar apa bila nak kahwin bagi bunga rampai and all this, you know, and that's not the cultural aspect of adat limited to only that. Adat is much bigger than that. Adat in fact means law actually, because it comes from the Arabic adat, which means law, the norms of society, you know. Al-adatu muhakkamah in Arabic, from the qaida, you know, among the ulama. So norms of society is the basis for the law. This is from our Sharia. The 5 cardinal principles of the Sharia itself, agreed by all 4 madhab of the Ahli Sunnah wal Jama'ah, among the Shafi'is, the Hanafis, the Malikis, and the Hanbalis. Al-adatu muhakkamah, for instance. So the original meaning of adat is actually law, how we live our lives. It's just that for some reason, that meaning of law, which is big, it became more restricted and more narrowed down to just cultural practice, unfortunately. And why? My proof is very simple of this. Biar mati anak, jangan mati adat. The origins of this, if you do not know, the provenance of this is actually from Sultan Iskandar Muda, the famous ruler of Aceh. Actually, during the time when Tun Sri Lanang wrote his book Sejarah Melayu. And in fact, in 1615, right? Now I remember why I said 1615 earlier, sorry. He wrote a letter to the famous letter to King James I. And we have this letter here in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. You know, I looked at it myself. Wonderful letter, you know, preserved here, you know, in 1615. So this was the ruler of Aceh, right? Ruler from the Nusantara who wrote to King James I, right? King James, of course, famous in the UK, in British culture and British history, because he was the king who basically commissioned the Bible to be retranslated, you know, and it became the King James Bible. It became macam, I don't know, like the Bible in the standard English language lah, something like that. Like, I don't know, kalau ada macam bahasa Melayu, Quran translation apa, standard, like Tafsir Pimpinan Rahman or something like that, right? I don't know. So, you know, something like a, you know, authorized English version of the Bible or something like that. So, so this ruler, Sultan Iskandar Muda, right? He had a son. His crown prince was caught, in committing an act of crime, basically, and the punishment for that crime is death. And when his wazir, his advisors, his menteri came to him, or his prime minister, whatever, said to, I'm scared to say this, but he didn't even scared to say this. Maybe the king, the sultan was saying, you seem agitated. Is there anything that? Yes, there's a tiny bit problem. Your son committed crime that has the death penalty. And this is the Sultan Iskandar Muda basically said, well, if this is proven to be true that he committed this crime, then biar mati anak, jangan mati adat. Let even, when we speak, as the Quran says, famously, right? Speak truth, even, uphold justice, even if it is against yourself and your family, basically. This is the Quranic message. This is what Sultan Iskandar Muda was being true to. Biar mati anak, jangan mati adat. So let no one ever dispute anymore, including any prime ministers or anything, because I heard some rumors, somebody saying that, one of our former prime ministers had actually said that actually, this adat, biar mati anak, jangan mati adat is a useless saying or something like that. It's a kalam kuno or something which has no meaning. Excuse me, this is wrong. You need to go back to the original meaning of adat there, meaning law. So even if our own family commit crime, we have to uphold the rule of law. And because the ruler has to be autonomous in this case, it's not only important for him to be capable, as the Quran says, al-qawi, but he has to be al-amin, trustworthy. He has to be autonomous, independent. Even if his son committed a crime, the crown prince no less. I'm sorry, the death penalty. And this is what happened in Aceh. Just read the story. If you don't believe me, just go and go. And that's why we have the saying, biar mati anak, jangan mati adat, right? And hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, if we are amazed by this, then don't be amazed any longer when we must realize that actually this biar mati anak, jangan mati adat actually goes back the original provenance. The basis of this is from the sunnah of our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who brought mercy to the world, to both the Muslim world and the non-Muslim world, to both the world of mankind, human beings, humanity, and the world of the jinns and aliens and whatnot that you have out there, right? And this is an amazing thing, because why? The Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a hadith which is sahih, narrated by Urwah bin Zubair, narrated in Sahih Bukhari, in Sahih Muslim, and so on and so forth, right? Where he himself, the Prophet himself said, Lau an Fatima binti Muhammad sarakat laqata tuha yada. Lau, dalam Arabic ni, in Arabic, lau is the hypothetical if, meaning it's never going to happen. It's only hypothetically we can use it in a class like this, in a lecture, just to hypothesize. Lau, if my own daughter, basically, if Fatima binti Muhammad stole something, committed the crime of stealing when she has no hunger or anything, and she's, no other mitigation there, but, really still stole something, like many of these Hollywood films that you see people just stealing for the sake of wanting to steal, because they can live their lives. They don't need to, steal to live their life anymore, but they really steal out of the gratuity, basically. Right? If she, Fatima binti Muhammad, radiallahu anha, stole something, I myself will cut off her hands. This is the sabda of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Subhanallah. So Sultan Iskandar Muda was basically following the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in a sense, this whole rise of constitutionalism, this whole rise of the ethos, right? The value, the good value of upholding the rule of law basically comes from Islam. This is why Islam was the first world in those days, during the Golden Age. We were the light to the world. We were the land of the free, the America of those days, the land of the free in those days. to bring law to the rest of the world, mashallah. You know, so that's why even the Byzantines had Roman law, but they didn't allow mosques to be open, synagogues to be open. They were not that free. But mashallah, next door, they were free. And that's why this is one of the most amazing, you know, facts there. So I want to just finish off by, you know, saying that, I hope it's clear for you then, the whole point about having good governance is basically to uphold the rule of law, right? And why? Because in this is part of the reason, and this is because to uphold justice, iqamatul adl fil ahkam, in order to put justice uppermost. This is what made our religion so famous once upon a time. And part of that, I would say, upholding the rule of law, of course. But if we want to benefit particularly from the way the Western tradition have actually expressed this, is to have the separation of powers. For why? For the check and balance. It's okay if we have people like Sultan Iskandar Muda as a role model, where he himself has Al-Amin alongside Al-Qawi, so he himself will check himself, right? But the reality, in a very flawed world where we have human beings who a lot of tamak, haloba, and ego and nafs and so on and so forth, you need to have other people check and balance against you. That's why you have the Magna Carta in 1215. You have the nobles, the barons checking the power of the king to make sure the king does not rule with zalim, in tyranny. The same way with Sang Sapurba dengan Demang Lebar Daun. Sang Sapurba was the king. Demang Lebar Daun was the nobleman who basically gave his fealty, you know, his daulat tuanku to Sang Sapurba, but with the condition that justice will be, you know, that you carry out the justice there. And we will check that against you. And this is the reason why, as a Perakian, I'm proud, you know. I just found out, by the way, after this, maybe you'll have a change of powers. I'm just joking, by the way. But both the president of ABIM and the secretary general of ABIM are both Perakians. Wow. Wow, okay. It's no monopoly here. But I hope that doesn't mean that you know, your chances for you, if you have election or something, you may be thrown out of power after this. Sorry, sorry guys. But as Perakians, we are proud. Why? Because the Perak system is such that when it was founded, the Perak state was founded in 1538, right? The Sultan Muzaffar Shah, the first, was the son of the last king of Malacca, right, Sultan Mahmud, who had to be exiled in Sumatra, in Kampar, when the Portuguese invaded Malacca. And, you know, when he was first invited, basically, by Tun Saban, one of the barons of Perak in South Perak, in Hile Perak, and Hulu Perak, there's another noble woman, basically, Tok Temong. This is the wonderful thing about Perak. I jokingly say, actually quite seriously, we should say, Perak punya patron saint, you know, Wali Allah is a lady, Tok Temong, Masya Allah, at Hulu Perak. These are two siblings of the famous, they were anak of the famous Bendahara of Melaka Tun Perak. That's why the Bendahara famous, the famous Chancellor or Prime Minister of Melaka Tun Perak was known as Tun Perak, very likely because in a feudal system, in those days, of course, that means you ruled the area of Perak, basically. So that's why his children, both the brother and the sister, the sister was ruling the north of Perak, and the brother was ruling the south of Perak, right? So Tun Saban basically was sent to Kampar, to Sumatra, to invite Sultan Mahmud to come back, you know, to the peninsula, Tanah Melayu, because you know, the Portuguese have just invaded Malacca years ago, you know, in 1511. This was in 1538 or whatever it was, you know, about 17 years later or something like that. But they haven't ventured out of their city-state, Malacca. So we still rule in Perak, you know, and Johor is still in, etc. So come back, you know, it's the successor state to Malacca, etc. So he basically, Sultan Mahmud didn't want to do this himself, but sent his son, Sultan Raja Muzaffar Shah. And so Raja Muzaffar became the first king of Perak in 1538. I may have got the date wrong, 38 or 28, you know, but there you go, thereabouts. Sorry if it is wrong. This is the problem when you don't prepare for your talk. Sorry about that, guys, folks. So anyway, so when he went to the peninsula, this is the, you know, when he met basically Tok Temong in Perak. This is the famous story, right, among Perakians. And Tok Temong gave this mustika embun, right, this kind of magical dew, as it were, you know, very mystical kind of, you know, petrified dew as part of the state regalia of Perak, that we will therefore support you, Your Royal Highness, Raja Muzaffar Shah, provided that you take care of the needs of the people there. to uphold justice, etc., etc. Going back to that wa'ad kabir in sejarah Melayu between Sangsa Purba dengan Demang Lebar Daun. Going back to that Magna Carta in 1215 of King John and his barons. And that is why in Perak until today, they form a Dewan Negara, right, which is basically a council of the barons, council of the orang-orang besar to always advise the ruler. So the Perak ruler can never, in that sense, even when he one day he dies, when any Perak ruler dies, it is this council that elects the next ruler. It's a bit like in Negeri Sembilan, you have the 4 undangs, So it's not automatic that the anak, the son, will succeed. That's why the ruler has to behave to make sure that, to make sure that I'm in the good books of the orang-orang besar, in a sense. But this is the check and balance system, that separation of powers. Very interesting, mashallah. So, and I want to say this because it's important that we realize, especially in the modern context, it's important to have the separation of powers. Why? Because, if you come from the United States, especially the famous example of the role model of democracy today, even though it is suspect in the last few years, particularly during the Trumpian era, as it were, but still, nevertheless, you learn there is the first estate, which is the executive. There is the second estate, which is what? The legislature. The third estate, which is the judiciary, right? So these 3 branches of government are co-equal in the American doctrine. And why? Because there needs to be this separation of powers. You need to have the check and balance between the executive, the powers of the executive, and the power of the legislature, and the power of the judiciary. So, bidang kehakiman nombor 3, bidang membuat undang-undang nombor 2, dan bidang yang ada kuasa untuk manage the country lah, nombor 1, which is the executive. And some say the fourth estate is the media, to have a free media, basically to be able to have to make sure that you report things truly, so that there can be accountability, in all that. But what's interesting, hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, is that of course America thrives on this system, famously, and in fact, but in areas, in countries where we have constitutional monarchies like Malaysia. Malaysia is a constitutional monarchy. It is a democracy, of course. It has a parliamentary democracy. But like the United Kingdom, Malaysia, the same, Westminster system, but Malaysian style, mashallah, we have a king. And we have the rulers here. And they are not absolute rulers. Our kings are not absolute rulers. They do not rule like King John ruled before, So, but they are constitutional monarchs like King John after the Magna Carta, right? After the perjanjian Demang Lebar Daun dengan Sangsa Purba, after the first Sultan of Perak, basically. So the king himself must follow the rule of law. This is what it means with the rise of constitutionalism. But what's interesting out of this separation of powers is that, and I say this to, our ruler, His Royal Highness Sultan Azim Shah, for example, my wise and generous patron, I would say, it's, you guys, I said, Your Royal Highness, you are in fact the zero estate. You're not the first estate, you're not the second estate, you're not the third estate. Indeed, the king, the Agong, the ruler of a state, for example, is the progenitor of the first estate, because our king Agong Lante, in fact, chooses and Lante the prime minister according to our constitution. Our king opens the parliament, right? And our king basically is the fount of justice. So from that point of view, you are the asal. You should be, you oversee. You can't, that's why you are the payung negara. You are the zero estate. Right? This is the situation where you are basically the bedrock for the country in that respect. And you are the ultimate check and balancer in that particular system. So I jokingly say with my friends in Oxford, among those who teach PPE, philosophy, politics, and economics, among the professors who teach politics, say, wow, and this is true, by the way. And a presidential democracy is not as stable as constitutional monarchy when democracy. And of course, I'm not thinking of Malaysia, of course. I'm thinking of the 4 or 3 countries in the Economist Democracy Index list where they are the top 5, So you have countries like Norway and Sweden. These are all countries with kings, by the way, and the Netherlands, So, they are much more stable democracies than a presidential system. Because of this, we have the zero estate, basically. That's interesting. That's very, very interesting. So we, go check the Economist, Democracy Index that they have this annually. So a lot more of the countries that are democratic countries that has a king as a constitutional monarch is, that results in a far more stabler democracy. And may we hope, may we make dua that inshallah Malaysia one day will rise up to our aspirations to rise up that time, because we have the ingredients already. We have a constitutional monarchical system here in our parliamentary democracy, mashallah. So, hadirin wa hadirat sekalian rahimakumullah, this is really all that I have to say. Cultivating good governance between, the Muslim world and the West. Somewhere where I started off by quoting, that Mawdu' saying of Abduh, or the real saying of Imam Tahtawi, I saw in the West Islam but no Muslims, and I saw in the East there are Muslims but there is no Islam. And that is born out of our inferiority complex. It is high time that we need to reclaim back our original values so that we can stand shoulders to shoulders, among our Western compatriots, basically, and be proud of the fact that our religion, mashallah, Islam, through Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, have brought civilization to the world. And in fact, these very modern good governance values, really. Because why? Al-Adl, upholding justice, is the maqsadu shari'atil asil, is the original objective of our sharia, original objective, our sacred law, indeed. And the maqsad of ikamatul adl, right? The objective of upholding justice is what? Is to create a thriving society, right? This is important. We need to remember that. Because if you have poverty, right, in any society, then by definition, that is not an Islamic society. If you have poverty in a society, then by definition, that is not an Islamic society. That's the whole point of why we want to uphold justice. That is the whole point of why we want to uphold the rule of law, so that we all, can live equitably in this society. Right? And that we strive, even as economists, as leaders, policy makers, as ulama, to try and bridge the gap between the rich and the poor. That's the whole point. So if you have any poverty in society, that means, then by definition, it's not really a true Islamic society. And that's key, and that's very important. And that's why I want to end with this dua of the Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from, Abu Hurairah, as he narrated in Abu Dawud. He says in this beautiful dua, and this is a dua that we must teach this to our leaders, to our rulers, to our pemimpin, and to our ministers, to the advisors, to the rulers and prime ministers, and to the bureaucrats, to the civil servants. Allahumma inna na'uzbika min al-faqri wal qillati wal dillati. وَنَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ أَنْ أَظْلَمَ أَوْ أُظْلَمَ. Right? It's a beautiful dua of the Prophet ﷺ. It's a beautiful dua, and I hope this encapsulates my meandering tafakkur reflections, this afternoon and this morning, really. Oh Allah, jauhkanlah kami, protect us from poverty, from qillah, from hardness and hardship in life, and from living in humiliation, basically. And how do we achieve that? وَنَعُوذْ بِكَ مِنْ أَنْ أَظْلَمَ أَوْ أُظْلَمَ. And how do we achieve not to have poverty, not to live in humiliation, and not to live through hardship, in this material life, basically? How? To make sure that we do not transgress other people. We do not create injustice in this world. So we ask Allah to protect us from being a zalim person, and to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect us from being transgressed, being mazlum as well, from being orang yang ditindas. And it's a beautiful dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a wonderful dua of the Prophet. In this dua, I believe, is where you really have the true answer to cultivating good governance, to develop our national ethos, and to, put it in our heart to see, in fact, how we can actually cultivate good governance between the Muslim world and the West. So that's all I have to say, really. I know my time is up exactly an hour, and I don't like to go beyond that. Aqulu qawli hadza wa astaghfirullah li wa lakum wa lisa'iril muslimina min kulli dhanb. I hope this has been, inshallah, beneficial. Secretary General, I hope the volume is loud and clear, and the video also is loud and clear, inshallah. Right? So I turn over to you now. So, we can.
Alhamdulillah, jazakallah khairan jaza. Wa nafa'ana bihi wa bi'ulumihi fi darain. Amin, inshallah. Thank you very much, Sheikh, Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti, for your insightful speech. It's very wonderful. But we have to realize your promise just now, and let us open the floor for 2 questions. So the first one from Al-Fadil Professor Muhammad Fauzan Nordin from IIUM, and also the Chief of TRIPIT. Please, Dr. Fauzan, unmute. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Terima kasih. Thank you very much, Saudara Fazril, Datuk Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. Alhamdulillah, glad to hear again your wisdom words all the way from Oxford. Okay, theoretically, historically, Alhamdulillah, mashallah, you can see the story of Ituru and Iskandar Muda of Aceh. But unfortunately, I want to bring back to reality what we are having right now. You can, even though you are in Oxford, I think you are monitored closely from there, that what we are facing here, far from, I'm not sure about 50% or 70% of it. What's wrong with us? Is this because of Umara? Is it because of Ulama? Is it because of Jundia? Qiyadah wa Jundia? What's wrong with us? We have the Kitab Turath, we have the good history, we look at Islamic history or Malay history, we are in the good foundation. But now we hear corruption is well spread. I don't want to mention institution, but you just Google Malaysia and corruption, you can see everywhere. Everywhere. Whether it is bureaucrat, whether it is from politician, whether it is from rakyat people. Unfortunately, the marhain will be punished severely. Not really quote-unquote severely, but bangsawan, no, what's wrong with us? So I just want to know what's wrong with us, Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I think, I think this what's wrong business, I don't want to be one of those sounding to be always, complaining about things. We need to get out of this, victim mindset, really. And that's why I say what I said. I think at the root of it, I think, Dr. Fauzan, I think it's basically we need to be able to act on what we know. And al-ilm bil-amal. And this is the big seed problem. We don't, walk the talk, really. And I think that's the basic root of the matter. And that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala punishes us this way. Our religion most beautifully has sent the basic ingredients in how to cultivate good governance, but we ourselves don't follow it. So, for instance, when you talk about corruption, this is a very good example where when Fukuyama says, it's the ability or the capability or the power of the state and the bureaucracy's autonomy. So you ask yourself whether, do we actually have real autonomy with our bureaucracy? So until that is resolved, right, until that is sorted, then we won't see autonomy. This is something which our religion has asked. If you cannot uphold justice, it will certainly lead to corruption, for sure. So we have to therefore be true to ourselves at the end of the day. We have to start with ourselves. Rather than complaining, rather than, let's start with ourselves. Let's start with our family. Let's start with ourselves. Let's start with those people whom we know and do our very best to make sure then that, yes, things should be done, above board, uphold the rule of law. So very simple things like, for instance, if we want to encourage our civil service to become more efficient, they are more independent in the same way that, for example, that the civil service used to be the case. I remember because recently we just had the passing of a great civil servant, the Almarhum Tun Ahmad Sarji, for example. And in my eulogy of him, when I was asked by the Malaysian TVs recently, I said he was the Sir Humphrey of Malaysia, right? Who was Sir Humphrey? If you don't know, I mean, I'm sure you can get this through YouTube, but I hope RTM actually shows the BBC program Sir Humphrey. Yes, Minister, yes, Prime Minister. To show, how civil servants should really, at least jokingly, should behave. Because, to be impartial. And I think if our civil service is actually truly impartial, that, inshallah, less and less corruption will happen. And I think this is absolutely very important. I think if we are true to that Quranic advice, inna khayra man istajarta al-qawiyul amin, right? That the best person for you to employ, the best person for you to rely on, basically, in any organization, in any country, in any company, in any structure, is the one who has that capability and the one who has that autonomy, the one who has that independence, the one who has that amana. So we have to, I think the issue here may be that we have, a lot of qawi now, but I think it's the al-amana bit is lacking. If we go back to our roots of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who was al-amin, then inshallah, I think so. I don't want to be in this complaining mindset, right? But we need to get out of that by, let's focus on how can we be amana. We need to, go back to basics, basically. And so that's when we need to use our religion in a positive way. This is when we need to use these strong moral values like being amana, being independent, being autonomous. And we need to be proud of that, actually, by going through, that's the use of going back to these stories. Don't use these stories from our history as just romantic stories. You are just romanticizing our history. No. You read it, you teach it to your children, but then you act on it as well. That you yourself should be the first example, the first model to your children and to others. So it starts with you, basically. Of course, for those in position of power, this is from the ground up. From the top down, for those in the position of power, they have to think of making sure that the system is continually improved upon. So that this check and balance, the system of the Magna Carta, the system of the Wa'ad Kabir, is alive and truly alive. And we must continue to do that. We must continue to basically, see in what ways we could improve. If the irony is, mashallah, Malaysia has a, strong, for example, Islamic banking, Islamic financial institution standards and all that. Why? Because of this, partly again because of these two reasons that Fukuyama mentioned, right? Al-Qawi, Al-Amin. They have a lot of this check and balance, etc., etc. Well, why can't we translate this into the political sphere, right? So, and I think, and I'm confident, inshallah, the problem, I think, with the older generation, if they are too corrupted or they got the incorrigible, well, then we need to look at our younger ones to make sure that they, please, we make dua that they cannot fall and don't fall into that Malays, M-A-L-A-I-S-E, not Melayu, but Malays, into that conundrum. So that's really my advice, Doc. I think it's important to, act on your knowledge, al-ilm bil-amal. And if we don't act on our knowledge, then Allah will, this is part of the bala that Allah sends us. And we get the leaders we deserve. This is part of the sunnah of our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we have to therefore improve ourselves. So I hope institutions like ABIM, institutions, civic societies and civil society institutions, the NGOs work on changing, transform people's akhlaq and adab, basically. Transform, their human nature so that become, we appeal to our angelic nature, to the better angels of ourselves, rather than to the base and human natures of ourselves. We have to learn to rise above our din, in this case. Din, not D-I-N, religion, but din in English, rise above the dirtiness of this world, if you like. Thank you. Yeah. So are we done? Are we anymore?
Thank you, Sheikh. We have, let's take another last question.
One last one. Okay. Right.
From Dr. Muhammad, Dr. Mat Razai, from Laka, I think.
Terima kasih pengurusi Fikril. Datuk Dr. Afifi, saya tertarik ungkapan quote-unquote Magna Carta ni. Teringat saya bagaimana awal abad kurun 8, 9, 10 di alam Melayu ini terlalu kuat kerajaan negeri, kerajaan Hindu Majapahit, terlalu kuat kerajaan Sriwijaya. Tetapi apabila datangnya pedagang-pedagang Arab, yang so-called wali Songok ini, tumbangnya hinggalah wujudnya kerajaan Islam di Aceh, kerajaan Islam di Terengganu, kerajaan Islam di Perlak, kerajaan Islam di Papani, kerajaan Islam Selatan Filipina. Saya kira mesti ada signifikannya dari segi konteks good governance. Mesti ada quote-unquote makna kata yang dikatakan oleh Dr. Afifi tadi. Sehingga arkitek ketika itu, barangkali arkitek daripada pedagang Arab, mensesuaikan pula nak membina masjid. Pernah satu ketika Dr. Afifi menyebut 2 tahun yang lepas di Kuala Lumpur, malah dalam konteks membina masjid pun dia disesuaikan dengan suasana tropical iklim di alam Melayu ketika itu. Dengan wujudnya masjid yang berbentuk piramid, tidaklah berbentuk dom, sebagaimana di tempat-tempat yang 4 musim ini sudah tentunya ribut yang begitu kuat, tetapi di masjid di Malaysia ini tidak begitu. Jadi menunjukkan bahawa pedagang Arab ketika itu dia boleh saja design ataupun mereka bentuk masjid itu sebagaimana di tempat dia. Jadi maksud saya di situ adalah elemen quote-unquote makna kata ataupun good governance dalam menumbangkan kerajaan Hindu Majapahit, Sriwijaya yang kuat ketika itu, sehingga memboleh mewujudnya kerajaan Islam Aceh, kerajaan Islam Papani dan kerajaan Islam di Terengganu. Minta penjelasan dan pencerahan daripada Dr. Afifi. Wallahu a'lam.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I think absolutely. I think the kedatangan of Islam to the Nusantara is positive proof and a practical hujjah, menunjukkan dalil yang actually in practice, not in theory, in practice, when these early Muslims came to the Nusantara, and in fact when the people basically saw them as examples. So initially, when they were dealing with these Muslims as part of their business transaction, they realized that these people are actually people with integrity, for example, right? So, initially, they see that. And so, of course, people started to gravitate towards this, to the point where the rulers, the Hindu rulers then started to become Muslim, And of course, the famous example would be the first Sultan Melaka, Parameswara, when he became Sultan, Muhammad, basically Shah, right? So, and then when he became Sultan, of course, then it became natural, for the ruler in this case to listen to good advice, basically from, those people who basically brought Islam. And at the root of it is this sense of upholding social justice, as I mentioned earlier. And I think like the previous question was talking about, why when you have all these problems, it's important, therefore, to make sure that every stakeholder of our society, whether it is the rulers, whether it is our leaders, whether it is our ulama, whether it is our ministers, and so on and so forth, they all have to, within themselves, introspectively, cari dalam diri sendiri ni, make sure so that they are able to realize that we are there, especially when we hold public office, to uphold justice. And this is basically at the back of the minds, of these early Muslims who came to the Nusantara, and they basically showed the way by being a good role model. That's why I will say this, Professor. It's interesting that one of the hikmah that I learned is that in the Nusantara, people were not forced to become Muslims. The Islam was spread not by the sword. Arguably, it was spread by the pen. Or indeed the examples of our, ulama and pedagang from basically, the Hadramaut and the early Sufis, for example, there. Whereas if you compare with how Islam spread to Andalusia, it was by the sword, right? Look at what happened. I think, after, 700 years, they were thrown out. And I'm not saying which one is better and so on and so forth necessarily, but what is spread by the sword sometimes does not last. In the case of when we compare the Nusantara and Andalusia, for instance. But having said that, mashallah, Muslims are now in Andalusia. Muslims are now in Spain. That's why I started off, with a very bleak, inferiority complex picture that I pointed out, that Abdu supposedly said this, or Imam Tahtawi said it, for example, and etc., etc. But we must realize, mashallah, we have to be confident. We have to be, proud of the fact that there are Muslims now in the West, actually, and we're living side by side together with non-Muslims. and rediscovering, going through now that a lot of these good Western values, which is good, by the way, are actually very much rooted in Islamic values, right? So the West is no longer a place where it's just the West. Don't forget, we have a lot of Muslims here, right? So we it doesn't have to be fragmented anymore. You see, in that respect, it's like, in a way, we are coming home in that sense, So that Islam has become this very much the universal religion, and people realize that. So, and it's an amazing, amazing, transformational, a very kind of liberating feeling, I think, for people there. So, in the same way that the early Muslims who went to the Nusantara brought Islam to the Nusantara and found, wow, Islam is such a liberating force, like in the Ertugrul stories, right? Definitely. I think in the West, despite 9/11, despite what happened in New York, okay, and of course, we all abhor it, we all condemn it, and this is wrong, of course. It is against the Sharia, of course, to kill civilians, and so on and so forth. But despite the bad news, despite the Islamophobia here in the West, there are a lot of people who still become Muslims. Why? Because they realize the beauty of what Islam espouses, especially on the political, social, economic side of things, that social justice that we're meant to uphold. This is one religion that really, mashallah, the uniqueness of this religion is that it combines the best of Nabi Musa alayhi salam, the Mosaic tradition, and the best of Nabi Allah Isa or Jesus alayhi salam, the best of that Christian tradition. Because in the Christian tradition, they focus on the inward thing, very much personal development, your spirituality. In the Jewish tradition, they focus on the law, for example, right? So in the Islamic tradition, it's as if, mashallah, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam combines both the Zahir and the Batin, both the law and spirituality, and to have a, safe equilibrium, mantap, gandingan yang mantap there. And I think we should all be thankful for the blessings and the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So thank you again for that question, and really thank you again for inviting me to this wonderful conference. And it really is an honor for me to be asked to close this conference in this so-called closing ceremony. So the closing ceremony, in my mind, of course, I'm no VIP or anything like that to officiate anything, but in my mind, the best thing to do at any closing is dua. And I dua al-khitam. And to leave, inshallah, our conference listening to what Dr. Osman, the chair of Imam Al-Ghazali in Malaysia, had to say about the meaning of good governance in Islam, to the wonderful, stimulating sessions you've had, in the afternoon. But to end now, inshallah, with this dua, and I hope I will recite the dua of both the Mufti Ahmad bin Said of Negeri Sembilan during the Merdeka years, and of course the dua of our Prophet of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, reflecting on good governance, Ya Allah. Bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give tawfiq and success to our leaders, namely our civil servants, our ministers, our advisors, the people in cabinet, and those who serve them, and our rulers and our kings, and also those who are not in government, the so-called opposition, for they are also our leaders in check and balancing the present government, and they have to do their duty in this, and that following the tradition of Imam Al-Ghazali, that they are the Mir'atul Muluk, or as the Germans say, the mirror for the princess, basically. And so all of these politicians have a duty and a role to play to uphold their public duty, whether they are in government or in a non-governmental setting, so that they advise each other. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to ask them to be able to uphold the dignity of our religion and the rights of the believers, and indeed the rights of our citizens, both Muslim and non-Muslims. And indeed, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to let them carry out their duties with ease, especially in upholding the rule of law, iqamatul adl fil ahkam, and to stay true to the beauties and the values of our religion. Allahumma wafiq sa'ir al-umal wal-wuzara wal-salatin wal-umara لرعاية أمور الدين والمحافظة على حقوق المسلمين وإقامة العدل في الأحكام والتمسك بفضائل الإسلام. يا الله يا رب العالمين. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من الفقر. Ya Allah, protect us, our country especially, from, Ya Allah, the maqam and the death of poverty, from hardship and from difficulties. Ya Allah, for any country that has poverty is not a true Islamic society. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for us to go back, Ya Allah, for us to be able to go back to you in a form that we eradicate poverty, Ya Allah, Ya Rabbal Alamin. Allahumma inna na'udhu bika min al-faqri wal-qillati wal-dillati wa na'udhu bika min an azlama, and protect us from being those who would commit zulm, and those of us who might be suffering zulm. Protect us from such a travesty and such a bala, Ya Allah, Ya Rabbal Alamin. Wa na'udhu bika min an azlama aw uzlam, Ya Allah, bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin, bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin, bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Taqabbalallahu minkum.
So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for to Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti. It's a wonderful speech. Thank you for your time, for your hikmah, and for your thoughts. And with that, I thank you again, and I want to pass over the floor to our MC. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Okay, thanks again to Sheikh Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti, as well as our moderator, Tuan Fazril Saleh. Attendees who are always in the cradle of God's mercy and love. The ceremony will continue with a resolution statement read by Mr. Faisal Aziz, President of ABIM. To Mr. Faisal Aziz, the floor is yours.
Na'udzubillah minasyaitonirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yang berbahagia Datuk Dr. Afifi Al-Akiti, Fellow of Islamic Studies, Oxford University, orang besar 8 Perak. Actually, it was closed with full of barakah by Sheikh Afifi just now. Yang berbahagia Emeritus Professor Osman Bakar, Prof. Alisha, Puan Altaf, all distinguished speakers who contributed in this event, all fellow participants and organizing committee of the event. Alhamdulillah, we have come to end for this event. This is a very important event aiming to serve as a continuation of effort to find solutions for the Muslim world in addressing the problems of good governance. But I don't want to take any time longer. One thing that I have to emphasize, this project is part of ABIM's effort to materialize the vision of Bangsa Malaysia by forging the Bangsa Malaysia value, the nation of dignity defined in part by the rejection of corruption and the abuse of power. So this conference is an extension of ABIM's Bangsa Malaysia programs. These other partners, Sina Harian, Amari, and our friends as well. And it will continue to build integrity and good governance as the foundation, as foundational values of Bangsa Malaysia. And Alhamdulillah, in this program, we have outlined important resolutions to take forward. And please allow me to take a couple of minutes to read the resolutions that we reached to the event. We realize that all citizens inhabiting this Southeast Asia region, regardless of race, religion, archipelago, have long adhered to the noble practices shared by our previous generations, interacting with each other, open to mutual reinforcement, always promoting understanding, as well as prioritizing the values of balance and moderation in the way of life through the mold of cosmopolitan society. Therefore, Guided by this awareness, ABIM and NOOR conference put the following resolution as a joint resolution on togetherness and value sharing in conjunction with the conference entitled Good Governance, Quest for the Future. First, appreciate that all citizens who inhabit this country or region bear the trust to take care of this country well, based on the noble principles, based on the guidance of the rule of law and the constitution. A realignment of will needs to be put as a crux for our future initiatives. A unified agenda needs to be epicenter of actions, and unless we appreciate and rejoice this absolutely, we will not be able to champion a greater future for mankind at large. Second, recognize the language of the principles of good governance that makes the country a dignified country, is one of the common values of this region that must be supported by all citizens. Dynamism of action via goodwill needs to be beyond theory and needs to be implemented multidimensionally. Each and everyone has to understand this from their psyche. A nation with souls and a society with principles will endeavor as the answer for our societal ills. And third, realizing that the practice and enforcement of the principles of good governance is something that has been ingrained in the Muslim community, which nurtures the greatness of civilization in the past. It was discussed by Dr. Afifi just now. The values that we had inherited from the past civilizations guides us and serves as a reminder to our daily governance mechanics. The cycle of history serves a foundation for each new generation to further build upon the glossary of knowledge, using it wisely to protect the ideals of good governance. And fourth, committed to act in unison in educating the Muslim community on the importance of restoring the ethos and authority that exists in building a civilization based on the principles of nobility, honesty, transparency on the stage of good governance. In the process of building a nation and building a civilization, one must first understand that values shall create ideals, and these ideals will then create the system of governance. Hence, identifying and protecting these values is a need for us to preserve the sovereignty of identity for that particular group of people. And last but not least, number 5, working on all the values embodied in the principles of good governance with a new horizon of that principles. This is articulated by Prof. Osman Bakar just now, to be a mainstream agenda, to become an important national policy as an important solution to the diseases that surround the people of this region. As the agenda of nationhood has fully materialized in this postmodern world, we need to manage nation building in the areas of paradigms that will support and enhance the governance institutions of this era. Thank you. We hope we reach the objective of the event, and we will continuously educate the public so that we can cultivate the dignified values that derive from our own national or Southeast Asian cosmopolitan ethos to be part and parcel of our daily practice, inshallah. Thank you very much, all speakers, distinguished professor, for contributing for this event, and participants as well. And last but not least, the organizing committee of this event as well. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. MashaAllah, a wonderful resolution from Mr. Faisal Aziz. May this resolution be a sign of a greater future for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, as Malaysia and the global world come to unison on the roles that each of us play, surely we will see a light at the end of the tunnel. The world has now understood the need for more regional cooperation, and as it slowly embraces the uniformity of roles, we will usher a new era of peace and prosperity for Malaysia and beyond. On behalf of the organizing committee, Muslim Youth Movement Malaysia, ABIM, and NOOR Malaysia, we justly express our thankfulness to to all of you for joining our excitement and taking out your treasurable time to show up at our conference on good governance, quest for the future today. We enthusiastically thank you for this great honor, and let me end our conference today with the recitation of Kafaratul Majlis and Surah Al-Ans. Amin ya Rabbal Alamin. Thank you very much. May Allah Ta'ala grant us His rahmah and barakah. See all of you again in our next event. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening.